Welcome to the Warriors and Wardens podcast, formerly the Origin Canine podcast. We are dedicated to sharing the lived experience of military and first responder communities from Australia and around the world. I'm your host, Tom Brown. Enjoy the show. Right, g'day boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Warriors and Wardens podcast. Today we've got an in-studio guest. We've got Declan Redmond, former 2nd Commando Regiment operator. Welcome, bro.
Thanks for having me, mate.
All good, man.
Good
Thanks for your time, man. Coming
Anytime.
out. Because you've done, I heard your Zero Limits podcast. Have you done any more?
Yeah, I did Maddie's podcast. Who else have I done? No, I think it's just Maddie. Mate, I've got a memory like a goldfish. Standard too close to too many charges over the years. I think it's just Maddie's podcast I've done.
Really?
Those
Okay.
Elements, yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised someone like Global Recon or something.
I've been asked to do a few. I'm just sort of like, I don't know. It's not that I'm against doing podcasts by any means. It's just that like I did Maddie's, for example, and I sort of went into detail about, growing up and all that sort of stuff. But I guess I've just never really, some people they love to get on podcasts and talk about their experiences or whatever.
Guilty.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a definite keen listener of podcasts, but yeah, I've just never really sort of like, gone off and done a whole heap. And I think this will be my second.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure after this podcast, I'll be like, oh, what about that one or this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maddie's podcast are good. He runs a like a really tight ship. He's got some great episodes, and he's had great guests on there.
Yeah, man, 100%. Yeah. I remember when he asked me on there, and I was like, what? Zero Limits? Wow.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed him for his potty at his place, and I was like, oh man, it's a strange thing to sit back and look from the other side of social media
absolutely.
and be like, oh, that guy's he's a giant of the industry or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a regular dude like me. I got my own podcast, not as big as his, but it's a funny thing. But mate, I want to obviously we'll dive into your childhood a bit, man. Just sort of find out what formed who you are, and the guy you are today. So do you mind hitting us with that, man?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Adelaide. Pretty unremarkable upbringing. I don't have a like a crazy origin story or anything like that. I grew up in Adelaide. Played footy, played cricket. I was pretty interested in martial arts growing up, so I did kickboxing and a few other sort of like karate and martial arts and that type of thing. I guess my interest in sort of like military stuff, because I mean this is where this is all heading, right? My interest in military stuff probably started in my like early teens when I started sort of like reading about World War One, World War Two. The school, the high school that I went to, St. Paul's College, in Adelaide. One of the history teachers I think I had in year 9, who was a bit of a military history buff. We would do lessons on World War One and World War Two and some of the bigger battles that Australia was involved in, and that's sort of when I first learnt about Gallipoli and some of the other sort of campaigns, Ratchet to Brook and all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of like that's where my interest in the military sort of first, I guess, presented itself. And then as I got older, when I sort of turned 16, 17, it was sort of something that was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. And that's when I started reading some of the books that were coming out around that time was sort of like Bravo 20, the Andy McNabb series, Chris Ryan series. What was the other one? Gaz Hunter. He had some good ones. The Killing, something or other. But all that whole suite of like British SAS and some of SBS guys, those books, Eric Heaney's book, Inside Delta Force. So all those things sort of shaped my perception of like military and sort of what I wanted to do ultimately. I had a girlfriend at the time, so I left high school and went into university and did software engineering at university for a little bit. And I had a girlfriend at the time that would sort of like go on to marry. But that was always something that was like holding me back from like joining the army because she didn't want to leave Adelaide and she was sort of very like family orientated. But ultimately I ended up just saying, this is something that I want to do. And she sort of like got on board. And it was around the time that Timor kicked off. So Timor kicked off in 2000 and, when was that? 2000 and...
99, wasn't it?
Oh, 99, yeah, 99, 2000,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. And at the time, I was a student, delivering pizzas, sort of, just doing odd jobs here and there, sort of without direction. And Timor kicked off, and it was obviously the first big deployment since Vietnam. And I thought, shit, that's something that, I think that I don't know whether you remember, it was like the first tick that Australian troops had been involved in since like Vietnam that was captured by news media. It was the one on the border there. It was a boy. There was I think it was like 3RR. They were doing a patrol up like a main road, and then there was like TNI on the other side of like the border, and they got in a bit of a skirmish and a bit of a gunfight.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the time, it was like, whoa, because I remember like fast forward being in one area, there was Somalia guys that was still telling the story about how they fired a 66 into a mud hut in Somalia, and that was their big war,
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I saw that on the news, and then I saw like SOSR guys doing the early sort of the long range patrolling, if you want to call it that, like long range reconnaissance, where a few of those guys got in tick, and ultimately I meet one of those guys in later years who was wounded in one of those particular battles. But these are all things that were sort of happening that shaped me wanting to join the army. And then, I ended up, initially I actually applied for RMC, and then got through sort of the initial interviews and the aptitude tests and all that for RMC. And the plan was to go off and sort of become an officer. But then I did the board. I sat the, what do you call it? The screening board, or whatever you want to call it. And I was kind of underprepared. I was 19 at the time, I think I was.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And I was just like, and my academic performance was admittedly pretty lackluster, and I was just underprepared for the moment. So I left I would assume now a unremarkable impression on them. And they were just like, yeah, mate, you did well up until this point. You're a bit young. Go off and have a bit of life experience, and then come back and try again.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up doing that. I was just like, I'm just going to join. So I joined as an OR infantry, and sort of, that was, when was that? 18th of July 2000. I ended up joining.
2000, far out. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that upbringing is typical of our kind of guys, I find, right? Medium performance in school, probably more focused on the humanities, history, English, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Because that was essentially my same story, early teens. I was like, I love history, I love World War II, what do I want to do with myself? And then you get to that age where you're like, I can actually do it.
Definitely.
In a few years, I'll be 18 and I can do it.
And I guess like that the appreciation of like those humanities type subjects, even classical studies. I did that at high school. Battle Thermopylae, all these sort of like, ancient sort of military things. That was like, that was my jam. I love that type of stuff. And then I also, I was quite a physical, like teenager, I guess. I played rep footy, and I was boxing at the time too. I was like competitively amateur boxing, and I'd started doing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was 18. So I was sort of like, I was quite physical. I had a bit of a physicality about me, and that also sort of like drew me to the army. I remember when I went for my like first, I guess, off the street interview, where you just go in and go, I want to join the army, and they go, okay, and come sit down, and I'll, ruin the rest of your life. Just ask me some questions.
Great cool.
Yeah, mate, you'd love it. But yeah, I'm boxing. We do boxing. But yeah, hey, sign up. Yeah, sign your life away. We do boxing. They box every week, and we'll send you off here, there, and everywhere to fight for the army. And it's just so bullshit. Just
every Thursday, sport day.
Fed me the line. But yeah, so because I was sort of that way inclined, I like contact sports, and I liked combat sports as well. It just seemed like a pretty sort of like natural fit for my persona, my character.
Yeah. And did you have because I'm not sure what the officer stream is like in terms of recruitment. Do you go to be like an infantry officer or a cav officer, or is it just you're an officer? And then when you get to RMC, they
I'm pretty sure, like for me, like I wanted to be an infantry officer.
Yep.
But I think from memory, it was a case of like, depending on how you performed, you know, if you were like top of the class type situation, you probably get what you wanted. But if you were, you know, a bit of a ball bag and, you know, didn't perform very well, though, it was probably a case of like, they would put you wherever they needed you. You know what I mean? If that was Ordnance Corps, hey, you're an ordnance officer now. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh man. And what
I mean, I'm glad. I'm so glad that I didn't go down that path. My life would have been very, very different than it is now.
Oh, dude, drastically different. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a totally different life. Yes, I mean, we are where we are because of the results of the decisions and circumstances that led us to this point, and I'm sort of very happy in life now. So I'm glad that never happened for me because, yeah, like I said, my life would be very different.
Yeah, very much so, man. Yeah. And why officer? Like at the beginning, what was about officers? Was it just because it seemed above the regular?
I think it was because like that initial discussion that I had with the recruiter was how you should, because I'd finished year 12. I was at university at the time. I was studying software engineering, and he was just like, I'd actually done the aptitude. So the initial aptitude test that I did, then after that aptitude, they would say whether you had the aptitude to go for officer training. So I'd apparently, the scores that I got in the aptitude test, I could have gone for like the Army aviation. So like I performed quite well in the aptitude test. And that wasn't something I was interested in at the time, but then they were like, oh, well, you can pretty much, you pick what you want to do. What do you want to do? Like, you've got a high aptitude, you can join as an officer. And I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, it was just like the natural progression, I guess, because of the results that I achieved in that initial aptitude test was what was like, hey, officer path is open for you. Try that.
Fair enough, yeah. And I guess it was because SF wouldn't have been, there was no DRS then, was there?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
No. I mean, I think at the time, like B Company, there was like Commando capability then was like a reserve capability. And they had like one company, I think it was. Like B Company would have been the one qualified company at the time. But that wasn't even in my that wasn't anywhere in my sort of thought process. So it was just like, hey, I'll just join the army. It was funny because I saw a picture of a guy in Tully, and he had the old, the old radios, the fucking big backpack things, old square things.
Yeah,
sitting there on the comms, and it's a picture of him in Tully, and I'm like, I want to do that. I'm like, now knowing what I know now, like shittest job in the world in Tully, like miserable, wet, carrying a friggin' radio in a waterlogged like pack, mate.
RC 150.
Yeah, and like cumbersome.
Yeah, I remember those things, man. Yeah, I have one for a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so infantry, man. Yeah, okay, cool. And then you knew what infantry was, right? So
I
like, that's where I want to go.
Yeah,
sweet. And then crew training.
So I joined, went to Kapuka in July of 2000. Mate, if you ask me what platoon I was in B Company. Can't even remember what platoon I was. And yeah, I found that experience like kind of fun, actually. Like, I got best at PT in my platoon, so that my section commanders used to call me Prawn. Great body, shithead. So you used to call me fucking Private Prawn, or what is it, Recruit Prawn?
Okay. Like I know the term, but I was like, because you're like a reasonably good looking bloke. I was like, what's going on there?
So they called me Recruit Prawn. Yeah. So and then from there went to Singo, and Singo then was like I think it was 8 weeks then. School of Infantry at Singo, and then they got posted to 1RR. So it was funny because it was like my platoon was the first of the platoons that got sent to then 4RR. So, like, for those watching, like, historically, 2 Commando was born from 4RR Commando, and then around 2000, 4RAR Commando was re-rolled as an infantry battalion to go to Timor, and they were going to go to Timor after 1RAR. So the platoon that I was in, half of them went to 4RAR, and then the other half went to 1RAR. So I was one of the guys that went to 1RAR, and I arrived at the unit when the unit had already deployed to Timor. So I sort of filled re-details. So like re-details are basically like the people that were left behind through injury for admin reasons, or they were just bags of shit. So it was a really unimpressive, uninspiring introduction to the battalion.
Yeah.
Because everyone told me like at School of Infantry that like 1RAR is like the premier battalion. You know, it isn't. But like, you know, at the time it was like, you know, 1RAR is the fucking. So went to 1RAR, and yeah, like everyone that was sort of there at the time was yeah, like I said, either injured, admin, just shit fights, or just fucking bags of shit. So it was like probably 30 or 40 guys that were left behind that were just left there to maintain the battalion area. And the guy running us at the time was an officer, he was a lieutenant at the time, called Doug Pashley.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know of Doug. Yeah.
So he's still in. He's a brigadier or he might even be a general now. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, Doug was our platoon commander who was running us at the time. And it was just basically, yeah, the people that were left behind did duties, would work the front gate, do your pickets at night to make sure nothing's getting broken into, and just, you know. So, yeah, so went to 1RAR, and then Doug, he ended up getting sent over, I think, as a reinforcement, and he ended up being the platoon commander for Pioneer Platoon. Man, it was such a long time ago. I'm trying to remember the details accurately so I don't like make a dog's breakfast of the story. But
almost
yeah,
30 years ago.
He was he went over as the platoon commander for Pioneer Platoon. And then I think it was a few weeks after he left, myself and a few other guys got sent over as reinforcements because there was some injuries or whatever.
Perfect.
So we got sent over, World War Timor. We ended up in Dili and then quickly found our way to Ballabo, and I found myself with the RPs, which are the regimental police. So the regimental police, unlike the military police, the regimental police were, I mean, how would you describe them? Did you ever spend any time in a battalion?
Yeah, I was at 3. Yeah.
So
I remember the RPs.
The RPs are just like the RSM's like dogs' bodies, really, right? They just like maintain the area, and like there's only a small group of them, right? So I found myself and me and another guy ended up with the RPs, and we just ended up working like pickets at the front gate at Dili. It was a terrible job. And then one day Doug drives through and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, mate?" I'm like, "I can work a picket. He's a big bad war out there." And he's just like, "Oh, I'll look after you." So he got me and another guy, Wixie, and he sort of dragged us out to Pioneer Platoon.
Perfect.
And we had like a little Pioneer sort of like area, like a house they'd sort of commandeered near, it was Batagade or somewhere. I can't remember the names of these places. But anyway, that was my introduction to sort of battalion life. So I found myself in Pioneer Platoon as a junior soldier with all these, like, you know, if you're in support company, you'd done a few years. It's probably unlike it is now, but like back then, you probably don't go to support company after you do maybe 2 years in a rifle company, and then you'll get a support company course and go to support company as a DFSW guy or a sniper, recon, whatever.
Mortars, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like a full lid, like about as lit as a lid can be, in a platoon full of like senior guys. So it was sort of like it was a bit of a, I don't want to say it was like a bullying environment. It was definitely a who the fuck are these lids?
It was not a permissive environment.
Yeah, no, not at all. There was many guys there. There was quite a few guys there that weren't very nice. You know, it is what it is. So that was my Timor experience. I spent the time there with 1RAR. With Pioneer Platoon in 1RAR. Went back to Australia, spent another year in, I think it was a B company, and then I applied for School of Langs. So I did the aptitude test for School of Langs, and then got some pretty good results in that. And it was the first year they had the Farsi Dari course as an option.
Okay.
So Farsi is what they speak in Iran, and parts of and Dari is what they speak in parts of like Afghanistan. So I was like, oh shit, that sounds good.
What year was this? Sorry,
2002 or 3, 2003, I think it was.
Gotcha. Okay, so obviously the war in Afghanistan is happening.
It just started. So like whatever squadron it was that went over initially, like when Anaconda happened, and that first like the first stint of the guys going out, that was happening around that time. Because I remember when I was at School of Langs, there was a couple of SOSR guys there that were sort of dirty, that they were at Langs when that all kicked off, because they went to Langs for a year off, like a break, and then that all kicked off. And they're like, shit, that's my squadron.
I don't need a break.
Yeah, they're pretty dirty. But yeah, so I did that for a year. That was a bit of a, it was selfishly, I went there just to like do jiu-jitsu pretty much. I was like obsessed with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And Melbourne was the place to be doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time. So I was like, I could get to go to Melbourne for a year and, do a language and, and do jiu-jitsu at the same time. So it's sweet. So I did that. Ended up going back to 1RR for another year. Then I applied for SOSR selection, and that was 2004, I think it was. I applied to do the selection at the end of the year, I think it was. Went on selection. It was probably like 10 days in, I want to say. 10 days in on selection there. We were doing a night nav. It was like the 3-day, like the off by yourself fucking NavX, whatever it was called.
Happy Wanderer or something.
I think it was Happy Wanderer, yeah. It's like 3-day, whatever they called it. And I walked into a hole at night. It was like the first night that we went off, they were like, yeah, we want you guys to nav at night. And so everyone was navving at night. And then I think we had like 7 or 8 injuries that night. So then it came over the radio, no one navs at night. And if you nav at night, we'll fucking know and you're off the course. And I was just like, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. I'm going to fucking nav at night, get some Ks up. So I navved at night on the second night and like fell into a hole and like, it was like just walking and it was like a pothole. Landed like awkwardly on my left knee. And I was just like, oh, that's not good. And then, walked through, I didn't walk through the rest of the night on the second night, but then walked through the third day and then finished it. And then I pulled up at like the, at the end of every activity, they'd line everyone up and they'd be like, all right, who's injured? And then I'm injured. And I'm sort of like, should I say anything? By this stage, my left knee was like a balloon. And I'm like, I probably should say something. I put my hand up and they were like, everyone just fucking, on selection, they're not very nice. So if you're ever going to do selection now, it's different. It's a very different selection now to join selection. But back then they don't give a fuck about you. Like you're there to pass. It's up to you. So they're not going to be nice to you and they're not going to do you any favors. So like, oh, you fucking guys go over to the medic. So I went over to the medic and one by one we're sort of getting checked off and like some guys had like literally no arse cheeks left. It was chafed to like just back to like raw meat and some people didn't have feet left and all this sort of shit. And like I was pretty good for chafing and my feet were fine, but it's my knee. And I actually struggled to like pull my pants up because like the swelling on my knee. So I had to take my pants off. And the medic was just like, oh mate, that's a disaster. He's like, you're finished. And I'm like, don't tell anyone. Let's see if I can like sleep it off. Like he's just like, I'll give you like we'll see how you go in the morning, but like that looks fucking horrendous. So yeah, it was like a balloon. It was just full of fluid and I woke up the next morning and it was like, you have like 4 hours sleep or whatever, and it's long enough for it all to seize up. So woke up in the morning and it was a bit of a disaster, and I struggled to make like the morning reveille. Everyone lines up in the morning, everyone get up, line up. So I was like the last one up, and the DS is like, yeah, you go over and see the medic, and the medic's just like, nah, you're done. So that was the end of my illustrious experience at SOSR selection. So they do a debrief at the end of these things, and they're like, how you going? Like if you're people get injured, right? It just happens. And that's the same with 2 Commando. Plenty of guys have been injured on the course and they're like, yeah, man, you were doing well up until that point. Come back next year, And so I got the debrief at the end of it and they were like, yeah, man, you did really well. You're going well up to that point, but these things happen. Injuries happen. What do you want to do? Do you want to come back? And I'm like, yeah, I'll come back next year. But it was next year, right? And there was a warrant officer there at the time who was at SFTC, and they were trying to get people. They were trying to man 2 Commando at the time. It wasn't 2 Commando; it was 4-hour Commando at the time. And he's just like, he said to me at my debrief, he's like, "Hey, how about you do this? How about you go back to 1 hour? You put your application back in." And this is even before I knew what was going on with my knee. But it's just like, how about you put your application in? Commando selection is the start of the following year. So I think it was like, I want to say it was like August of 2004 or whatever. And then Commando selection was the start of 2005. So he's like, instead of waiting, because he's like, do you want to get out of 1 hour? I'm like, yeah, I hate it. Can't stand the place. He's like, okay, put in your application to do Commando selection. If you pass, you go to 4-hour Commando. And then you can always reply again if you want to do SSR. I'm like, yeah, sweet, good plan. So I took his advice. I went back. I did all the scans on my knee and all that sort of stuff, and I tore my lateral collateral. And the surgeon was just like, look, we can do surgery on it. It's a small ligament that you can actually, to this day it's still torn. But he said, like, you can do rehab, you can strengthen up your quads and all the muscles around it, and you stabilize and all that sort of stuff. But you just got to be mindful of certain angles and certain things you do. It's one of those things you've got to always maintain it, right? But you can do it. Like if you want to sort of go on and do other things next year, if you want to do selection next year, we'll hold off on surgery, because if you do surgery, well then that's 6 months gone. You're not going to be ready for it. So I was just like, no, I'm not going to do surgery. I'm going to try and do the rehab route. So I went down that route. Got it as good as I could get it. It wasn't 100%, but it was and it's still not 100% to be perfectly honest. So I ended up having subsequent surgeries on that knee while I was in the unit. But it was enough to get me through. So I'm sort of jumping between timelines here, but I did selection at the start of 2005. It was a really big selection course because they were trying to man it. It was 150 people on the course.
Was that the first year of DRS or something?
It was the second DRS. Mm. So the first lot had already gotten through. It was a second DRS. It was a really big course.
Is that Pat Stewart, Ryan Tyndall, those guys?
Yeah. Yes. Hang on, I'm just trying to think. So
I think Pat was on the first one, maybe.
I think, Pat was at the unit before I got there. So I think he might have been on the first one, because there was already a few DRS guys that had got through.
Yeah.
But it was one of the, I think so the previous one they ran at Singo, and the selection that I did, they ran at Osworthy. So I did that one, and I've talked about that selection on Maddie's podcast. It's a bit of a shambles in hindsight compared to what it is now, which is a well-oiled fucking, mate, they have that thing dialed in. You know what I mean? Yeah. That selection process now is because it's obviously both units. And they have staff from both units on there as DS. It's a well-oiled machine compared to what it was when I did it. It's
just a smash fest.
It was a shambles of there was no wet bowl back then. I'm not saying mine was harder than anyone else. It was just it was very disorganized. It was very, it was so big. I don't think they realized Commandos had been running selection courses up until that point, probably 30, 40, maybe 50 guys. And then all of a sudden they got 150 guys they need to administer. Jeez. So it was a whole unit endeavor to put everyone through. And they also had hierarchy at the time. They had a CO at the time that was sort of, I'd be gracious in saying that he wasn't inserting himself in things that he probably didn't need to insert himself in. You know what I mean? Let the senior NCOs and the warrant officers and the people in charge of selection run it.
Mm.
And he would come in and try and interfere with certain activities and whatnot. I'll give you an example, and this is something that I talked about on Maddie's podcast, but the field phase where you would do demarcation and some of those other formation profile activity. We were doing a walk-in, and it, even guys that were on that selection and DS, commonly refer to it as a death march. Because it friggin' turned into that, because the start of that day we were supposed to be on the parade ground with our packs ready to go at 4 a.m. to head off. because it was going to be a stinking hot day. Like, it's going to be a really hot day. So they'd planned, the staff had planned for like, 100 and however many guys to start. They'd had water along the route. It was like 20 odd Ks, 28 K. I don't know. It was a fucking long walk. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So they placed water along the way for people to fill up, water and whatnot. And I think from memory, there was a certain weight you had to finish the walk, right? And it wasn't a timed thing. It was just like, get there as fast as you can. But we all knew it was a competitive thing, right? So, you wanted to be in the front of the pack, right?
So is this like the 20 clicker equivalent test, or this is just part of like a bigger full mission profile?
Yeah, it was like the intro to the field phase.
Okay, gotcha.
So up until that phase, up until that point, we'd been in the lines. So like back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then it was like a commando training and selection course. So it was like a training element that would like train your aptitude to like, if I give you an MP5 and teach you it, can you do all the, TOETs in half an hour type situation? Or if we teach you certain infantry minor tactics, so you're not a ball bag, can you understand? Like, so it was like a phase of like finding out whether you were trainable, right? And then I guess while that was selection and the PT in that, and, it was like, they did all the B sessions and all the sort of the signature PT sessions. It wasn't until like the field phase, which was like the last 2.5 weeks, I think it was, where they would do like the FMP phase, demarcation. They'd do like, your nav phase and all that sort of stuff. That was all during that. But the walk-in was like the big introduction to like, this is it, this is where the hard part starts. So I remember the staff had said, hey, this is the walk-in's going to happen tomorrow morning. Be here at like 4 a.m. with your packs ready to go. If you're late, you're fucking gone. We're going to step off like bright and early to try and beat the heat, right? And it was probably going to be like a good 5-hour walk. You know what I mean? And it was like through the back of Holdsworthy, which is like all over the place on the road. There was no sort of like walking through the bush. But like that morning, the CO decided just randomly that like, we're going to make all the staff do it as well. And I'm going to do it, and the RSM's going to do it as well. Classic. And all the support staff and all the fucking all the DS, they're all going to do it too, right? Which in hindsight was a freaking disaster, just from a perception perspective. As a candidate, someone it was a disaster from a perception perspective, because like I was old enough and mature enough to know that like on that course I was fit as fuck. Like I was ready to go. You could have given me whatever distance and I would have like chewed it up. But like these DS that are teaching us, that are there to like observe, and like they haven't been training for a 28 clicker in the heat of the day.
Selection fit, yeah.
Selection fit, they're fit.
It's very different fit.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Unsustainable.
So basically they were told the morning of this event, go pack your packs. We're going on a fucking long walk. So we were there at 4 a.m. and then it started creeping to 5, then to 6, then to 7, because everyone had to go off and get their packs ready, right? So straight away it was a disaster, right? So I think we ended up starting the walk at like 10 a.m, right? Yeah.
Wow.
And so we all started, the staff that were like, should have been there manning the stations and whatever, or walking clean skin beside us, right? I was under no like misconception that they should have been doing it with us. Like they're already in the unit. They're qualified. Like I'm trying to be qualified. Like they don't need to prove anything.
You don't need some sort of solidarity thing. Yeah.
So anyway, the walk happened, right? And mate, it was really, really hot. It was like stupid hot, right? So, and they didn't have enough ambos. 2, they didn't have enough like bags, just like IV fluid bags. They didn't have enough of that. 3, they didn't have enough water for everybody, because like so basically like the first, say 50, the first water station's 5Ks in, you're smashing water. It's so hot, right? So like, in the first 5-6 Ks, you've already gone through however many liters of water, right? So you're bombing up your water because you've got another 5 to whatever the next station, 3 Ks, whatever it is. So the dudes that are at the back are getting to these water stations, there's no water. And it only gets worse the further you go. Yeah. Because everyone's blown up their water. So
diminishing returns.
If you're the poor fuckers at the back that probably aren't fit enough or haven't prepared themselves enough, but are there, So we had like, it was just a medical like disaster. Like the amount of people that went down. So I probably finished like maybe 6th or 7th out of the group. So I didn't have the issues with the water, right? But what I witnessed was the ambo just going backwards and forwards of like picking up people that were like prior one casualties from like illness. Yeah. And they brought in a guy, right? They brought in a guy who had bags in both arms. He was out, unresponsive to pain, unresponsive. He was like white. And they're like, this guy, you need to get him to the hospital like immediately. So they got him off to the hospital. The CO didn't finish the walk. The CO fucking like just plonked his ass on the ground with the RSM, and a car came and picked them up and took him to the end. There was staff that were made to do the walk that were like injured. Anyway.
Yeah, complete fucking shit show. Yep.
Total schmozzle, right? And like,
but you're obviously picking this up as a
I'm looking at it going, young what? Dude. Like, because like, you know, I'm 20. How old was I at the time? 25 at the time, right? But like, I've got the presence of mind and the sort of like the I guess the maturity to understand that like this isn't for like I already knew being on selection that there was like a almost adversarial relationship between CO and the staff on this particular course. There was like it was an abrasive sort of like relationship.
Yeah,
and I knew from the staff and like being a fucking sneaky like eavesdropper that he was trying to insert himself into things that he should have just like left to the staff to run. And this is sort of just like highlighted one of those like so for me from a perspective from a purely like optics perspective, it was pretty bad because I'm like, oh wow, this is like
because you shouldn't see as a selection.
You shouldn't see shit, mate.
You shouldn't see the back of the house.
Yeah. You shouldn't see any of the back of the house. You know, so. Yeah, I guess that was my intro, and it wasn't like a negative experience. It was just like, oh, this is what it looks like when a group is overwhelmed by too many people, by like, you know, people inserting themselves into things that they didn't need to be involved in and whatnot. So, but yeah, look, you know, ultimately I ended up sort of doing enough to get through, which I'm sort of thankful for, and they accepted me in and they put me through a reinforcement cycle and whatnot. So yeah, I guess that's my little sort of origin story about how I ended up at now 2 Commando.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, so 4-hour Commando at the time.
Yeah, so it was 4 hour at the time. We had I initially went to B Company. Charlie Company at the time was tag. It wasn't like a rotation thing back then. They were the tag. A Company had been filled. So had B Company. I was filling up B Company, and I think D Company was sort of like half of us went to B Company, the other half went to sort of Delta Company. So it wasn't quite fully manned yet. I think it took a few more selections to fully man it out to like 3 Green Rolls companies, and then tag was like you didn't go to tag when I first started. It was like sort of like an invitation type situation back then.
Because tag was the thing back then, right? Before it became 2 Commander, before, you know, endless Afghanistan rotations, it was the big thing because it would have been the money maker. It would have been like the cool capability.
Yeah, it was definitely like so how it worked back then was you know, there was the defense white paper to raise a domestic counter-terrorism capability on the East Coast, and like the initial tag guys, the initial cohort of people went over to Swanbourne to do like the ACQB course, and they would run the SSR guys, put them through a course which was arguably harder than any CQB course that they've ever fucking done for their own guys.
Yeah.
It was a smash fest by all accounts. And I can tell you this, I have spoken to guys who were instructors on that course, and they laughingly say, yeah, we tried to fuck you guys over, like the guys there, as much as we could, right? So ultimately the end product was good. Like the guys that got through that course, it was a good course. But then the flow-on effect of that was how
it was the standard.
That was the standard.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tough, right? It was a bit of a smash fest, right? So yeah, that was like, you know, Charlie Company was the tag, and like you'd go to mess and you'd see all the dudes that were like on like relaxed grooming, you know, like with beards and the fucking long hair, and dudes had dreadlocks had like French braids and whatever it was, you know. So it was like, oh, who are those guys? They're the tag guys, you know. So they were sort of like disconnected from the unit. They were up at Luscombe, yeah. Luscombe. So they had their own compound up there. Yeah, so that was the tag. They did their own thing, and like, you know, the way it works is if you spend a bit of time in a green rolls company, then they would invite you onto CQB as a senior guy, and then you do the CQB course, and then you'd sort of go up there. That was before Smethurst, when he came in as a CO, he turned it into like a rotation type situation. So yeah, I started in B company, and I got 3/4 of the way through reinforcement cycle. All I had to do was the para course, and I was in the gym at it was the last course we had to do, the para course. Everything else was done, right? And I was in the gym with a buddy of mine, Andy Moyer, and he was a kickboxer. He's like, we actually trained at the same kickboxing gym back in Adelaide before we both joined the army, and we were hitting pads and hitting mitts and kicking the bag, and like he kicked the bag and I kicked the bag, and he had like real like good leg dexterity. He's like just flinging out high kicks out of nowhere, and he just flung out a high kick on the bag, and I was just like, I'll try and match his height, and I threw a kick, and just that knee it just went gone. Spat the kneecap out the side, dislocated my knee. Yeah, it's like really bad injury.
Yeah.
So that put an end to my reinforcement cycle. I had to get essentially a knee reconstruction, and then just found myself in like limbo for a little bit of time, because that's when sort of Afghanistan started like spalling up, and Timor started spalling. It was kind of a strange time. So I was doing rehab at the time, and then what was the first company to go? I think it was Alpha Company were the first company to go. They were getting ready to go to Afghanistan, and then I was sort of doing my recovery, and then I came good for Timor, which was
that 2006?
6.
It was because there was a bit of a surge at that time, wasn't there?
Yeah.
A bit of riots and stuff.
And then I went to Alpha Company to do Timor when that flared up. Yeah, man, it's all a blur, right? So such a long time ago. It's funny when you speak to dudes and they're like, "I remember this," and it's like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that." You know what I mean? But yes, did Timor with Alpha Company, then came back, then did Afghanistan the first time with Alpha Company, came back, then I injured myself on a parachuting, like I came out under reserve on a parachute, like just a training serial back in Australia.
What, main didn't open? So
no, so the guy in front of me exited a bit late, so I sort of like had my reserve. He didn't balk on the door. It was just like he was late getting out, right? So I sort of nudged him with my it was at the back of the casa too. It wasn't like and I sort of like bumped him with my reserve, and I think like the handle of my reserve fought his gear.
Oof.
So it came out as my main came out. So it's sort of like still on the, candlestick or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I landed pretty hard in my ass, so it fucked my back for a while. So then it was another injury. So I was out for another 6 months, and I spent some time up at the range after that because of I was doing my rehab and whatnot. And then I went back into Charlie Company, and then did 2 more scan trips to Charlie Company.
Yeah. Dude, can you take me through the because a couple of years ago I went down to Tasmania, and there was a DRS. I don't know if he's public, but I won't say his name. But he was one of the original DRS guys, and he was talking about Timor roping onto a building and a couple of things, and I was like, never heard that before. So what was Timor like for you as a commando, like in the unit?
Yeah, it was really good actually. It was a really good trip. Like how it worked is Timor flared up again in 2006, and it was sort of like I don't know whether it was a squadron of SSR guys. It might have been 2 troops, and then it was Alpha Company, and so we got sort of warned out. Everyone went up to Darwin for a bit of time just to do some sort of pre-deployment training. And then I know one of the SSR troops and one of the commando platoons then got tasked to do they got tasked to do like an advanced force job. It wasn't like a recovery. It was sort of like it was like a key personnel sort of like a extraction type job. I had to fly in somewhere and pick some people up, bring them back. That was like the first sort of element to go. But they ultimately didn't end up making where they were trying to get to because of like weather. Like the sort of the weather sort of didn't permit them getting over the mountain range or whatever it was. So that sort of that never occurred. But yeah, we went in. My platoon went in on a perk that landed with. So it was us and some SASR guys. We landed at Dili, and we sort of like we secured the airfield, and the SASR guys went straight off to like the politicians like Gianna Guzmao and Ramos Horta. They pretty much speared straight off to those guys because they would eventually they would ultimately just do the CPP for those guys. That was pretty much how their trip sort of played out for those guys. But for us, we were sort of like a bit of a tool for the I guess the task group commander to go and send out to do whatever needed to be done. So we did some like targeting of like it wasn't like they weren't like military, they weren't like militia or anything like that. It was like more so like criminal elements. There was a shootout in Dili before we went in. There was like some fighting and there was some people killed. That was sort of ultimately what led to us going in the first place. So we would do some like targeting, like, oh, we know this guy who shot these people are here. So we'd go out and try and get him. The gangs were a problem, like looting was a problem, just like law and order was a problem. So we would just like go around and fucking crack heads, for lack of a better description. We also did a bit of like CCP and babysitting of like some of the politicians and whatnot. But it was such a mixed bag. Like that job that you're talking about was one platoon roped into the markets. Onto like a rooftop of a market, like so the central markets in Dili. One of the platoons roped into the market, and then my helo was going to do the same. But what happened was the rotor wash just started ripping roofs off of friggin' the huts and throwing them up into the air, like dangerously close to like rotor blades and whatnot. So we ended up just like landing in the beach and sort of ran into the market. But yeah, it was just like, you roping in and like, in retrospect, there was no requirement to rope in at all. But you could, we had the gear, we had the helos, like it's sort of, it was a case of we can do it, so we will do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We could have just quite easily drove in. It's like, it's way cooler to fly in.
Well,
that was a fun trip. It dragged out in the end there. It was fun though. But it was sort of, that was like the prelude to the Afghan years, the sort of the never-ending rotations to Afghanistan.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been pretty exciting though, right? Like it was a Timor thing.
Yeah.
Just flared up.
It was the first thing we had.
Yeah. Because Afghanistan kicked off SOTG 2005, was it?
Yes. Yeah. So I think the first platoon, the first company that went over was Alpha Company that went first, and they had a bit of it was a pretty quiet trip. They had, and that was largely probably due to the relationship between the two units, CSR and then 4 Commando.
I heard this I had Pat Stewart on a couple of years back, and he was saying something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the relationship between the two units, like up until, I don't know whether it's recently, but certainly when I was in, was like toxic to the point of like irreparable. You know what I mean? It was pretty bad. But yeah, so Alpha Company had pretty sort of like uneventful trip, and then Delta Company went over. And their first rotation was when DA Nile happened, which is a really big battle. I don't even know if has that been sort of publicly talked about, DA Nile?
No, is this something to do with the Canadians?
Yeah, Kansoff went in and they tried to do a hit on a HVI that ultimately sort of they landed on a target that had way more enemy than they were anticipating.
Yeah.
And they copped a couple of KIAs or WOs pretty much straight away. And it was a case of like they couldn't get out. So then Delta Company went in and shot their way in and saved the day and shot their way out and killed hundreds of Taliban in the process.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I've never heard anyone tell a story. I know a bunch of guys that were on that.
Yeah.
Like senior Delta Company guys, but
there was a star of gallantry that came out of it,
is that
a whole heap of medal gallantry.
I guess we probably couldn't say who those people are. Yeah,
because he's probably still in, I think. But yeah, that was probably the first. So like Timor, while it was exciting for me, I remember we were at a politician's house and we were like looking after his kids because apparently there'd been a threat made to this politician's kids. So we're like following these kids around school, like literally the kids CPP, right? And then I remember we came back to the guy's house because we were actually living at his house. And one of the senior NCOs is like, "Did you hear what happened with the Delta Company guys?" And we're like, "Nah." And he's just like, "They got like about 100 kills up." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Small arms? Like what are you talking about?" He's just like, "Oh, it was a big one." Yeah. So that was my first little sort of like intro into what happened in that first rotation. That was the big job for Delta Company. And that's sort of like, I guess that was the first hit out that validated, I guess, the capability, validated that like, oh, these guys can actually go out and cause a big effect on the battle space. You know what I mean? Because up until that point, like, like I sort of previously mentioned with the dynamic between the two units, SASR and ORIR Commando, was definitely it was a toxic sort of relationship, whether you want to say it was like big brother little brother type relationship, but it definitely hindered the progress or the evolution, however you sort of want to explain it.
I was like, I think it was last night, I was trying to explain to a Delta guy. I was trying to explain what 2 Commando is.
Yeah.
And it's a complicated beast.
Yeah.
We're not quite conventional. We're not quite unconventional, but we do a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a unique mix of things, right?
Mm.
And the use of the name Commando, the Green Beret, there's a lot, like there's a bit of ambiguity there with other units around the world and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. From a pure branding perspective, it wasn't a good thing to sort of go with just from a peer-to-peer like perspective sort of thing. Yeah.
Because you get compared to other units
Royal
that have
Marine
the name
Commandos.
Royal Marine Commando.
Totally different.
Green Beret, they've got the name Commando, very, very different unit, right? And anyway, I was trying to explain this, the rivalry. Obviously, you were there. I wasn't back in the day, but that's that's what I used. I said it was like a little brother thing. The little brother's growing up. He's gone through puberty. He's getting some big muscles. Girls
and
and
he wants to punch on now.
And he wants to fight. He wants to go and prove himself. Yeah. And big brother is like, no.
Careful what you wish for, mate. You might get it. Stay in your lane.
It sounds like that. And then it like maybe now it's the older brothers. It's just 2 men now, not an older brother and a little brother.
It's certainly a different dynamic now.
Yeah,
it's like night and day difference now to what it is when I was sort of in the unit and sort of like as a unit, because I was there when we had the name change. I was there as the unit started taking on sort of more roles and responsibilities, and the OPO serials changed where we took on more things. You know what I mean? Like, so I was there through that whole sort of state of flux. It was definitely and I agree. I remember when I got out and I did SHOT Show in 2014, and I was speaking to a buddy of mine that I caught up with over there. He was another CAG guy. We were like, it was after the second day of SHOT Show, and everyone sort of went to the Hard Rock Cafe. That was where everyone was going. So we're on the piss and we're just chat shit. And he just out of the blue, he's just like, "What is the go with you guys and the SAS?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You guys fucking hate each other." And I'm like, "Mate, I don't hate anyone. Like I love everyone. I've got love for everybody." And he's just like, "No, man, like they fucking hate you." And I'm like, "Yeah, look." And I sort of like gave him the rundown, the 5-minute rundown on like why that's the case, and sort of like how this capability has been raised, and how there's certain things that they didn't want to like let go of it from an organizational perspective, and also like certain things they didn't want, 2 Commando, or 4AR Commando at the time, didn't want them doing. And then there's also the dynamic of like, you've got senior NCOs at one unit and senior NCOs at the other unit, and officers. And I'm like, from a digger to digger perspective, it was fine. It was never any animosity. Like, when especially in Afghanistan, like the relationship that we had with the squadrons that I worked with was great. Like, we had our back deck, the back deck out at, on the lines at Camp Russell, and like we would often have like guys from whatever squadron we were working with come and get on the piss and like, spend time on the back deck. It was that sort of, that animosity, that rivalry, that whatever, was definitely something that occurred at the higher levels, like the senior NCO levels, the officer levels, constantly trying to fucking shit on each other. In all fairness, shit on us more than we shit on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, it wasn't all, we were just like, oh, leave us alone, we just want to have fun. And
yeah. So it was definitely like, and so this CAG buddy of mine was just like, oh, that's what it was like when, like, the early days of CAG and Dev Group. It's very similar. Like, it was very, very similar. Like, it was so toxic to the point where they got the groups, the heads of all the units together, literally in a room, and was just like, you guys need to sort this shit out, fucking put an end to it. Like, we're all on the same team, like, learn to get along with each other.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that was like decades ago, right? But yeah, I just, it's a common reported about sort of dynamic that has occurred over the years. But I like to think that a lot of that was like just immaturity, like professional immaturity. And there's I mean, obviously there's still rivalry, but like,
and so there should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because rivalry pushes forward capability. You know what I mean? It keeps people honest.
Yeah, and if there's not some alpha male shit going on in that environment, there's something wrong.
Exactly.
You got the wrong people.
But I'd like to think that now that, with all the things that have happened with the, the war crimes and all the fucking bullshit and all the investigations and all the things that, the units have gone through, and, you've had Iraq and Afghanistan and all this, like, all this history now, you'd like to think that, like, the rivalry now is like a healthy rivalry, and that we're all on the same team. And, they've done a lot now to try and fix that through a joint selection process. Now, there's obviously people that aren't happy with that, but it is what it is. We're both units are pulling talent from the same pool, and it's probably going to go a long way to, like, guys that are doing selection together, that are doing reinforcement cycle courses together, that then go off. You develop a bond, and that bond sort of then goes through as you progress through your careers.
Yeah.
So you're not just constantly trying to fucking shit on each other.
Yeah.
As units, you know what I mean? So then ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got 2 units that are just like rock stars at what they do. And I'll never shit on SASR, like, ever. Like, those guys are incredible at what they do. They've always been like, as much as there is a rivalry between, like, SASR and 2 Commando, like, those guys are, like, they are exceptional at what they do, So if there's something that, if you're, I mean, Skojo mentioned this the other day on the podcast that he did with, I think it was Maddie. If, the SASR operator that, went into the village and killed the captors to save the day, you know what I mean? Save that girl, whatever it was. If you find yourself in that situation, you want the SASR guys coming in to save you, So yeah, I've got nothing but love for my West Coast brothers.
Yeah.
It's all water under the bridge. I've definitely had my experiences, like negative experiences, but again, like, we all sort of, like, as we get older, we mellow out, we get a bit more mature, and you understand it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that all sort of, like, ultimately leads us to where we are today, which I think is, like, from a unit perspective, from a special operations command perspective, just, like, in a better place.
Yeah.
It definitely, I'll tell you what, it definitely progressed the commando capability. in a big way.
In that adversity, right? If you've got to work for fucking everything, then you're going to learn a lot of stuff on the way.
You have to, yeah.
Because the other option is you curl up in a ball and fucking go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think getting out too. I think getting out is a great equaliser. You know, you get out and it's like, well, you're not in SASR anymore. You're not into Commando anymore.
Yeah.
You're a business owner.
Yeah.
You're just a dad.
Yeah.
You're whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's going to be a bit of fucking piss taking.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not so toxic.
No, it's not.
You're competing for.
You just don't care anymore. It's like. I mean, I still always like. I want to see Commando do well. You know, and like this whole investigation process for like SSR as a unit has been like horrendous from a unit perspective, from a not only a morale perspective, from a like personnel perspective, the amount of like talent they've lost, whether it be through like people leaving of their own accord or people being forced out through like allegations or whatever. It's been horrendous for that unit. Like the I guess the knowledge and the skill and the experience they've lost through this process. It's like you can't replace that. You know, you got people that have done like 5, 6, 7, like 10 operational deployments. You can't train that, you know. And once that's gone, it's gone forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I never want to see. Like, I definitely haven't enjoyed as a pure like observer. I haven't enjoyed watching, you know, what's happened to SASR as a unit through this process. I think it's like it's disgusting. But you know, sort of getting back to your point, like when you get out and it's just like, okay, my life's very different now. You just care way less. I know when I was in, mate, I lived and breathed it, and I was what's the word? I was violently dedicated to sort of being commando and protecting what it was. And like, if you shitmouth commandos, fuck mate, we're gonna have problems. You know what I mean? So, but when you get out and you know, like you said, you've got businesses and you got kids and you got life and like you got bills to pay. Like, you know, it's especially if you're working for yourself, you're not working for the government anymore, where that check comes in every Thursday or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Your life becomes very, very different. You know, so your attitude changes, everything changes, and you just care way less about it.
And you got less room. Like if you
don't have the emotional bandwidth.
Yeah, if you're worried about putting food on the table, you don't have time to be like. I remember a couple of times I got sucked into some like, you know, bro vet drama, right? And I mean, like I was on the cursory, just the edges, and I was immediately like, I regret that.
Yeah,
I just wasted 2 days of my time, a lot of emotional energy, potential money, you know, the emotional state that I was bringing back to my house, and I was like, I cannot afford to do that again.
Yeah,
you know, financially, emotionally, anything wise, because it didn't serve me at all.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see it now that people get out, they just like, they hang on way too long. It's just like, for me, it was part of my life, and I'm proud of it. Right? I don't regret it for a second. I'm disappointed at how things turned out. Like, I'm definitely disappointed with how Afghanistan rolled up. I'm definitely. I mean, look, we all knew that was what was going to happen ultimately, anyway. Right?
Yeah, in spite of what the propaganda was, like, the Afghan army, that, you know, very capable. And we're all sitting there going like,
"They're shit." So I'm disappointed with like how that played out, because, you know, we lost some really good fucking human beings in that conflict, and then to come back and the whole the Bratton report, and then the investigations that came from that, and even to this day, guys are still getting their houses raided, which is fucking disgusting. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like, I knew there was things like that going on. I didn't know it was still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on, mate. It's still
this day. Wow. Yeah.
So like, yeah. But yeah, getting back to people holding on for way too long. It's just for me, it was a part of my life, but it doesn't define who I am. I definitely draw like experiences from that part of my life, and I put it into my life now. I feel like that has shaped me as a person and how I approach a situation and how I react to certain situations, how I am with my kids and how I am with my fiance. Definitely that's shaped like who I am, but I'm definitely not going to be the person that like you said, gets drawn into whatever nonsense is going on, who's saying what about who. I just don't have time for it. And I don't care that much anymore about it. You know what I mean? Because I got too much on my plate. And I just find that people that find themselves years and there's guys that I was in one area with back in the early 2000s, right? Mate, they've been out for 20 fucking years, but they're in their mind, they're still in one area. All the shit they post on Facebook is a photo of them at the range, like in 2001. It's like, man, it's not healthy,
Yeah.
So, and that's the same for the special operations community as well. There's people that, stick around way too long mentally and emotionally. They're out, but they're not out. You know what I mean? They're still in.
Yeah, it's a funny world to navigate, man. Once you get, and like I said before, I've walked that line, man. I've been, too far on one side, sometimes too far on another side.
Yeah.
But I think I'm only just now starting to work out like the happy medium.
Yeah.
Look around us.
Yeah. But it's like what I mentioned.
It's all context dependent.
Right? It is, and it's like we talked about before we started that. Like, you can't devote yourself to something for like a decade and then not leverage it for whatever it is that you want to do when you get out. And we talked about this before that. Like, it was a very taboo thing to do as a commando to leave the unit and then use the commando brand or whatever you want to call it to go ahead and do a commercial venture, like whether it's a gym or a business or whatever. It was really taboo to be using the brand, the commando brand. But having said that, like, what do you expect someone to do? They've just spent a decade doing the job. They've sacrificed their body. They've sacrificed their family. They've sacrificed their relationships. Their health. Like, how many guys have fucking brain injuries, mate? I've got a tick that I can't get rid of because my fucking brain's been rattled from being a MOE operator. You know what I mean? Like, I've got a tick that just mate, I did a days of training where I, did 15 charges in a day. And then I woke up the next morning, had a tick. Can't get rid of it. Don't know why I've got it, but I'm pretty sure it's because I've stood about 3 centimeters away from 15 door charges the day before. You know what I mean? You sacrifice all this stuff, right? Of course you're going to use it. Yeah. So, yeah, you're talking about all this stuff around, and I'll tell you what, your coin collections. That's a coin collection, mate. I need to get my coin game up. But yeah, you're silly not to, mate. You're silly not to.
Yeah. And it's, like I try to tell guys all the time. I'm about to go and do the Crow Foundation thing.
Oh, nice.
2 or 3 weeks, I think. It took a bit of convincing. I was like, I've been out for 6 years. I've done a lot of this stuff. Better goes to someone else, sort of thing. And that's the mentality.
Yeah.
But I decided to do it because I want a bit of a realignment, I think, in that sense.
Yeah.
But I forgot where I was going with that. I think it was just about getting out. But it's part of your life, man. It's evidence of who you are and what you are.
Yeah.
But it is not who and what you are.
Yeah, and it can't be because
that mentality is not conducive to
it's not like you
a long, happy life.
No, it's not, man, because the person that you need to be, the person that you have to be like a good operator is totally different to the person that you need to be like a business owner or a normal functioning member of society with a family.
Yeah.
Especially with a family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I could not have been a shooter with kids. And the guys that do have multiple kids, fucking hats off to you. But there is no way that I could have gone and done Afghanistan with 2 kids at home.
Yeah, 100%.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance. And there was, there's plenty of them that did it. And and again, I commend them for it. But the person that you needed to be in that job, yeah, it's, so for me, I definitely take lessons learned and experiences learned. It's taught me a lot about perspective is a big one. And just being and gratitude. That's another big one. Just being thankful, because there's plenty of people that I looked up to in the unit when I was coming through that aren't alive anymore, that, have either since passed away, not as a result of the Afghan war, but just through accidents. You know what I mean? how many dudes from the unit have been killed in just fucking accidents, mate? You know? So like I have perspective, you know, I've got a level of gratitude around the fact that, like, you know, thankfully I don't suffer PTSD. I don't have any issues with anything that I've experienced in Afghanistan, whether it's, you know, the battles or the death or the seeing dead people and, you know, seeing mates dead or whatever it is. You know, I'm very fortunate in that I don't suffer the after effects of that. You know, I think I got out physically relatively unscathed. Like, you know, I think ultimately I do have a bit of a brain injury in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Like you know, and that's all starting to come out now with, you know, the work that some of the guys from the unit are doing. Paul Scanlon being one of them.
I asked him on the podcast, but I think he was like, "Nah, I'm just
doing his thing,
going to do my thing, and that's my focus."
Yeah, you know, and that's becoming more of a thing now. You know, the guy's mental state around, like, brain injury, around the percussive effects of just shooting or explosives, whatever it may be. You know, so, you know, I think I'm relatively physically unscathed. You know, for being doing. You know, I was in the unit for the best part of a decade. So I definitely do have a little level of, like, gratitude around the fact that, like, you know, I have healthy kids. I've got a good life. You know, I don't need much to be happy. You know what I mean? I should be happy, and I am happy. You know what I mean? So I think, like, you know, I can take those things away from the job and be like, it definitely gives you perspective, man, on life. And I think, like, with the way life is these days, with, you know, people and there's nothing wrong with striving for better and wanting more, but I think it can be like a bit of a fucking bit of a mouse wheel, bit of a rat race. You're always trying to, like, if I do that, that's going to make me happy. If I do this thing or achieve this goal, it's going to make me happy. And then when you get there, it's just like, oh, is this all it is? No, it's not that good. I'm going to do the next thing. And you're constantly trying to sort of chase those things, and you're never truly happy.
And I think it's so typical of that operator mentality, because I mean, I'm probably a bad example because I had, you know, somewhat traumatic childhood, I guess, that made me, you know, maniacally pursue.
Yeah.
I need to do this to be a better person.
To be good.
This is I'm valuable. You know, fell apart because I was pursuing my value in ways that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Career ended, and then I've had to go through that rigmarole since getting out.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, like you were saying, it's that task orientated, right? So, like, things like ADHD is, I think, are massively underdiagnosed in the military.
Oh, massive.
And the mentality that goes with that, it's task orientated.
Yeah.
It's, if I get that, I'll be happy. I move the goalpost. I never reward myself. It's like do, action, react sort of thing. But it's, you know, it takes a major event or a long time and lots of little events for people to realize, oh, fuck, man, I've got to slow down, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe the no fail, no quit mentality is not serving my family.
Sure.
Because the thing that I've chosen to pursue and not quit on is
the thing that's, like, destroying, like, exactly right.
Yeah, there's always a trade-off, man.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask about your Afghanistan tours, man, because you've done 3. Now, the first one you said was with Alpha Company. That was early days. Right, what year was that?
That was 06, I want to say. 06, 07. Yeah, I think it was 07. So that was yeah. So the trip with Alpha Company was, so Ian Langford was the OC at the time.
Yep.
Langers. Tell you what, he's a loss. He's a loss for defence.
What happened to him, man? Because he was CEO when I was there.
Yeah.
I know he got out and he's doing something.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't want to speak for Ian. But I can tell you, like, I've never come across a more gifted, like, intellectual officer, strategically, tactically. Mate, that guy would fucking run intellectual circles around anyone. Like, anyone. And not to mention, the dude's like a weapon, physically. Like, fucking physical specimen. I mean, he did the CAFT back in the day, the Commando annual fitness tests we had to do was like a 15K stomp, 2.5K run with the webbing, then push-ups, sit-ups, obs course, gate vault, all that shit, right? And, like, Ian, probably 70 kilos, ring and wet. not a big guy, an ultra marathon runner. But man, he smoked that thing in like an hour 28. So anyone who knows anything about like doing like stomps, like long distance pack marching.
A 20 clicker?
No, 15 Ks.
15 clicker.
Yeah. In about an hour 28, thereabouts.
Okay.
He's probably going to message me and say, no, it was
1:15 or something.
But it was some stupid time.
Like a Ben.
And I remember like when I finished like well behind him. And I was like laughing and I'm like, fuck, boss, you're doing it with fucking pillows in your pack. And he's just like, go pick it up. He's like insulted. He's like, go pick it up. I'm like, oh shit. So anyway, I can just a beast, right? Beast physically and just like intellectually. And the reason why I was saying he's a loss for defense. That guy, I mean, the fact that he's not like at a minimum chief of army is like criminal. So anyway, he's off doing bigger and better things with his life now, and he's crushing it as usual. He did a podcast recently with Cole Stefanovic.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
I've seen his thing popping up.
Yeah, so it's worth a watch. It's really sort of like high level sort of like defense. I guess it's tying in with what's happening now with the defense posture and what's happening in the world with the oil and the wars and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so Lang was our OC. That trip was a lot of long range vehicle patrolling. So I think at the time we held the record for the longest outside of the wire patrol in country up until that point.
Yep.
And it was like 30 odd days, I think we were out. So we went from TK all the way north up towards just south of Gizab. And it was just going out looking for fights, for lack of a better description, because there was no targeting. There was no real targeting back then. There was no real in picture of what was going on. So we just got in the cars as a big commando company and just drove north. And then us driving north would then ultimately inform all the intelligence assets, and people would start talking on ICOMs and radios, and they'll start to build a picture of like who's who in the area. So yeah, we drove north, and I think SOSR were out. So we were on sort of like one side of the valley, like the east side of the valley, and SOSR were on the right side of the valley. And yeah, we would sort of drive north, and then pretty much every night just hit a different compound. So like we would do a DA every night, and this was back when there was no like first light, soft knocks. We were blowing in on every compound. Whether it be door charges, wall charges. Every sort of like pretty much every night for like 20 nights, I think we're doing a DA. So we drive, park up in a video, walk in, do a hit on a compound, and then sort of walk out, get in the cars, drive north, go in and do another one. And we just did that for literally 3 weeks, sort of non-stop. So we're hitting a compound every night. But yeah, again, like I said, that was back when it was we didn't have the rules like they had towards the end of the Afghan campaign, where everything was like what were they calling them? Level 2, level 3 DAs towards the end there. Like every target that we hit was explosive entry. Yeah, so that's sort of how that trip played out. We didn't do any helo stuff. It was all out of the back of the cars. We had some big gunfights the further north we went. We would pull up in a video and just basically sit there. The mortars would be at one end, and the company would sort of be all like laid out, and we'd just be sitting there waiting for, all right, come on, shoot at us,
Yeah.
Have a crack, guys. And that happened a few times. Where we just basically sat somewhere for a day, and then the ICOM chatter would be like, okay, we're going to hit them now. We're going to hit them now. And it never came. So we'd stick around for another day, wait for them to hit us. And then, it definitely wasn't an unsophisticated trip. There's definitely a lot of moving parts. And I sort of, it definitely gave me an appreciation, like Langers being the OC at the time, he was a major. And like, I'm 47 years of age now, and I run a software company. I've got about 40 employees. And like, mate, I think that sometimes like running a software company is fucking hard work. You know what I mean? And wrangling the employees and sort of just, sometimes you feel like you're herding cats. Langers, I think he was like 37 at the time, 36. You know what I mean? Commanding this massive fucking organization out in the middle of the desert. And
that's just, man, there's assets more, there's strategic things you got to think about. There's so many more things. Yeah. Like when you see a military movie and it's like, all right, guys, this is a hostage rescue.
Yeah, it's just like,
we're going to go in, get them, and we're going to get out. You're like, days of, if not weeks, and has gone into planning that. Yeah. So, yeah, that was definitely like, and the funny thing is that like we went out, and then we came back, and it was B company who relieved us, and we'd come back in after like 30 odd days of being out of the white, and we were all like fucking like prison camp victims. We're all Changi prison camp victims. I reckon I lost like 10 kilos. I've got a photo on my phone. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Of like me and some of the other guys. Like we just arrived back in Australia. It was the first night, and we're all on the piss the first night back. And I was 20, might have been 26, 27 at the time. And mate, I just look gaunt. We're all these skinny fuckers, because we lost so much weight. We were out there because you're walking all day, all night. You're living off like Myoplex, like protein bars.
It's fucking hard.
Then you're sick. Like everyone got sick out there. It's like pissing out your ass for like a week, and then you're still out there trying to like fight it out. And like, yeah, man, it was a wild time. It was so fun though. Yeah, so fun.
How often were the targets non-permissive? How often were there dudes in there?
Yeah, it's like on that first Alpha Company trip, most of them were dry holes because it's pretty hard to sort of like maneuver a commando company and look at and like and we would try our best to park as far away as we could to like sort of throw a bit of deception in there, like park over here but walk down this way, but like when there's dozens of cars with 50 cows hanging off them and 84s and mortars and all sorts of shit hanging off them, like the Taliban just fuck off, mate. So whatever compounds that we did, like I know the very first job that we did, I did a roof. I was on the roof party when we blew into the compound, and we had some guys about 100 meters away shooting, me and another guy who were on the roof shooting at us. So we returned fire because the cordon was like to the right as we were looking. So the cordon was to the right, and then there was like a river sort of watercourse, and we were getting engaged from the river. So me and another guy like just did a couple of mag dumps where we could see the muzzle flashes into that area, and that was for me. I was just like, oh, every job's going to be like kinetic. We're going to get gunfights every job. It's going to be sick. But no, it wasn't the case. The big gunfights we had were like when we took the whole company up closer to Gizab, and we started like parking the cars around mountain ranges, like trying to egg them on, so to speak. But yeah, there wasn't like there was maybe a couple of occasions where towards the end of the trip, the further north we went, we actually got in a big running gunfight with the Taliban. When we sort of did a bit of there was a particular compound that we were going into the valley to do a hit on. And then when we did the hit on the compound, then we were going to do like a bit of a like move north, like an extended line up north. And we caught a few Taliban, like, essentially with their pants down, like unaware. And a big gunfight occurred. And, I think we, the lead section anyway, killed like 3 or 4 Taliban pretty much straight off the bat, and then it was just a running gunfight all day. There was a few of those, but there was no like, it wasn't anything as kinetic as towards the end. Like, the ROT, for me, ROT 15. ROT 15 was very kinetic.
Was that 2011?
Yeah.
And that like, I remember I was at 3 then. I remember some Charlie Company guys coming back from that.
Yeah.
Saying how fucking big.
Yeah, it was a gnarly one.
Yeah, they were saying it was pretty out there. Like,
yeah, that was a really gnarly trip, man. So that's pretty much the first lot of jobs that we started doing with the DEA.
Yep.
And the DEA So the thing with Afghanistan, the thing with targeting, right, is that like people that think that going after HVIs or MVIs or whatever it may be is this crazy sexy thing that you always get your man, you always find your target, and it's not. It's more often than not, it's like they're not there. They fucked off an hour before you rocked up or whatever. It's very rare to find the person you're after on target. Like it's a very rare thing, right? But what we were doing with the DEA was that we started doing, it was called nexus targeting. And it was a clever way of sort of like kicking. What is it? What's the saying? Kicking two birds, like hitting two birds with one stone.
Two birds, one stone. Yeah.
It was a good way of doing that, right? So nexus targeting allowed the DEA to go after the source of the opium, the drugs, the poppies, and the manufacturing facilities. But then it also gave the commando element a opportunity to kill the commanders that were trying to protect those assets. So rather than going out and trying to find the commanders and like target them in wherever they may be, we knew if we hit their drug labs, they would be there to protect their shit. And if they weren't there then, they would be there later. So we'd do wait behinds and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So that's when it started getting really, really kinetic, because the assets that the DEA had were like theater assets. So the intelligence they were able to sort of get, they were using like theater level ISR platforms. And they knew that like, we know this is a drug lab. We know these guys are here. Like it wasn't, the in picture was way more precise than anything we'd done up to that point. So pretty much every job that we went on was kinetic, like virtually all of them. So we would often do more than one target a day. Sometimes we do 3 targets a day.
Shit.
Yeah. So like,
is that follow on or they just pre-planned?
Yeah. So like, so the way it would work, like how the day would work was you'd get your warning order the night before. And then the warning order would be like, hey, we're going to do, this target, prepare for whatever it was on the case. And then you do like proper orders like the night before leading up to it. And then they'd sort of go through the whole picture of like, we're hitting this target first, and then we're going to hit this target second, and then we're going to hit this target third, time permitting. We'll do a third one if it all goes smooth. Like obviously you get bogged down in target 1, you're not doing target 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But if it all runs smoothly, you'll do target 2 and 3. So that's how a lot of those jobs played out. We would use the helos that the DEA had assigned to them. So they were Department of State. What are they? What are MI-17s? The Soviet friggin' helos?
Yeah. There's the massive one, and there's that one which is a smaller
one. Yeah. So they basically just like put like guns on either side, took the back doors off, and just like they were our taxis. They were brilliant, like airframes, perfect for what we needed for the jobs. And then they had like the Super Huey gunship aerial fire support as well. So they were amazing jobs, because it was like true. That's what I joined for. The true high tempo, like target rich, like every job something's happening. That's exactly what I felt like that. Like the first deployment was cool. The second deployment was a bit like, like it was a bit of that. But then the third deployment was like, oh, we're going after targets like daily. This is exactly what I joined for, But then again, that's the task group evolved into that. Same with SASR. They started doing like time sensitive targeting in and around TK and in and around sort of like Orizgan in and around that time. They had access to like airframes as well that were dedicated to what they were after. But yeah, like ROT 15 was definitely the from just like a war fighting perspective, it was like every day there was a gunfight. It was very rare you go out on a job and something not happen.
Yeah. And you guys, like, that was a pretty intense trip in the sense that you lost a lot of guys too. So
yeah,
obviously Todd Langley, Brett Wood, Rowan Robinson.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you guys lose anyone else in that trip?
No, but there was a fair few guys wounded as well throughout the trip. Like I know we had same day Todd was killed, we had another guy that was shot through the throat.
What's his name? Heath Jamison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamo. I don't know why the name just fucking blanked.
I only know because of podcasts.
Yeah, so Jamo was shot in the neck on that day. But then there was like guys that were wounded throughout on like various battles. When Brett was killed, a heap of guys were wounded that day in the blast as well. So yeah, it was like, you know, we there was a lot of guys that were injured on that trip. You know, obviously lost 3 guys on that trip, which was definitely definitely a shame. And like, you know, even to this day, I sort of look back on it and I'm like, was it fucking worth it? You know what I mean? With the benefit of hindsight, you can sort of be like, but all of them would have like, I know Todd. I was very close to Todd. Like I was in Monroe with Todd. We did CQB together. We did a whole heap of courses together. I was very close with Todd, and like, man, that dude was just like, he was just sick for it. He loved it. You know, his nickname was Tick Todd. You know, mate, that guy, if he could sniff out a gunfight or a gunfight would find him, it was just like, he was finding it. You know what I mean? And he loved it. And same with Brett, man. Brett was just like, I remember there's famous footage of him like online, and he's in a gunfight in an aqueduct. He's like knee deep in water. He's shooting down an alleyway at like insurgents, and you see him turn around and he's just smiling because he loves it, fucking loves it, you know. So I mean, I say that now, and I'm like, is it worth it? But like at the time, like we're all there, we all wanted to do it. Like yeah. I just have a bit of a shit taste in my mouth about how the whole thing ultimately played out.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
But definitely, like, you know, but as a campaign, was it worth it? Like, you know, it's questionable. But definitely, like, what we did there was like from a unit perspective, from a like historical perspective, from, you know, we were there to help the people. You know, we were like, you know, all the shit that the people see about in the media is like all these crimes that occurred, and like. I know personally from my experience, I saw nothing but like just like consummate professionals showing restraint at like every opportunity, you know. So many times, like I remember this, and I think I might have said this on Maddie's podcast too. Like there was one day we got in a really big battle in the Baluchi Valley. Is it the Baluchi Valley? Oh, fuck, it's one of the valleys. No, sure. Bagram Valley. Bagram Valley it was. And we'd been doing jobs with the DEA. Like we'd do a job here, and then we'd go a little bit north the next day and a little bit north the next day, right? And this one particular job was we flew in, and like it's like if you're looking north on the map, there's a river separating the green belt. You've got like compounds on the left, compounds on the right. We landed on the west side. The other platoon landed on the right side. And it was just like a running gunfight all day, right? And I remember like we landed, and you could see the helos from the other platoon landing at the same time on the other side of the river. And they were just getting like RPG'd up the arse, like while they were like on their approach. It was crazy, man. It was like on as soon as they landed. And pretty much as soon as we got off, it was like a running gunfight all day. Like I remember like that day, the DEA Super Hueys were circling a compound that was about 300-400 meters north of us, where another team was in a gunfight, and they were like just shooting down with their miniguns and standing under the helo as it was firing, and all the brass was landing around us. It's fucking cool, man. It's like a few hundred meters above us.
It's like a Black Hawk Down sort of
stuff. Yeah, it was crazy, right? And then like, you know, the door gunners on the Huey had like stitched up a whole heap of guys that were out in the open, and then the Taliban had like got them together and put him in a car, right? And we knew that these guys were enemy combatants, right? And on the radio, they were like, okay, we're going to send the guys in a car out. We're going to send them south, right? And we knew they were sending the car through to us, like through our position. And we're like, these guys are Taliban fighters, you know? So we like as a like commando like team section, we let the because we had the Afghans with us, we let them handle it. We're like, this is fucking your job, guys, you know. And they let them through, but they were mincemeat, these guys. But I mean, in terms of like restraint, there was no like, you know, we knew these guys were combatants. They'd been wounded. We let them through, mate. I mean, like they went through to wherever the fuck it was they were going to get treated. Later on in the day, there was running gunfights all day. We'd been engaged. My team in particular had been engaged assault forward on a compound, and as we were like assaulting over the open ground, we were just getting pizzled with like fire from pretty much every direction. And we ran as a team to this like, it was like an outhouse almost. It wasn't like a full structure, it was like a half structure. It was almost like a mud hut where a farmer would keep all his like tools and shit. So we were like hunkered behind this thing, right? And so we were getting like pretty much suppressed. If we tried to go right or tried to go left, we were getting pretty like accurate fire. So we're trying to figure out like, oh, okay, what the fuck are we going to do? We can't go back because it's open. We can't go left or right because it's open as well. So we were returning fire, and then there's like a piece of high ground that was overlooking our compound, behind the compound that we were sitting on. And we started getting engaged from that. And it was like, fuck, this is like... So I returned fire, and we sort of made a break for it and went into this compound. And it'll tie into my long shoot story. But like, so we'll get fired at from this like high ground. So the compound that we were receiving the bulk majority of the fire from, we managed to get into another compound, and we called in an A10 to do a gun run on this thing. And it pretty much like killed whatever like enemy element was out there shooting at us. So that high ground was like a point of concern because we were getting shot at it for most of the day, right? And the Super Hueys were, doing gun runs on it, and I'm sure the JTACs were like, calling in fire on it, whatever. But it was a problem, like key terrain. That was a problem for us. Anyway, later in the day, like as a platoon, we'd sort of all got together because we were running low on like ammo and water and stuff like that. So we're doing a bit of a resup. We started getting shot at from this high ground, right? And it was like, it wasn't like, it wasn't like accurate. It was sort of like more harassing fire, right? But then during the exchange of fire, this kid ran from the top. So we knew during the day that the kids were running ammo between position because the fucking Taliban was saying it, like, send such and such. And we'd seen them doing it. Like we seen some kids, like two kids, like maybe 10, 11, 12, running right in front of a gunfight that we were having because they were like, either they were running ammo, they were like sending messages, like, the runners for comms between like groups of fighters, whatever it may be, right? And like literally, like we're shooting at guys from another compound and these kids are running right between us. And again, like I'm talking like I witnessed this myself, the restraint that everyone showed, like they're fucking kids, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not killing no kids, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's not happening, right? So like later in the day, there was a kid who was like running down well, at first we didn't realize it was a kid. We just saw someone running down that feature. That was the problem feature, right? So we're getting fired at from this feature. Someone's running down it, right? Like sprinting down the feature. So the entire platoon pretty much like unloads on this feature where this kid is. And the kid's probably like, I want to say like, like 300 meters away, So it's like you're looking at it through like a red dot or whatever, not like a magnified optic. It just looks like a person running down the mountain, like sprinting, holding something. You're thinking that like, oh, well, I mean, we're getting shot at from that high ground. Like, anyway, the rounds are like landing all around him, right? And then it wasn't until like the Bravo was like, it's a kid, like shouted it out. Everyone stopped. Like the entire platoon, like that, stopped firing. And the kid fucking knife handed down the feature, like doing these ones. But again, it was like I witnessed. That's one of dozens of like of moments where like that. Look it up for yourself. The ROE that we operated under was a very loosey goosey ROE, and it's going to come out in RS's trial, and it's going to come out in Schultz's trial that the the ROE that we operated under was like what was defined as a combatant was very like loosely, if you are taking, if you're taking an active role in like fighting in hostilities, you're an active participant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but like morally, I couldn't live with myself. I know that kid was involved. He probably didn't have a fucking choice. His older brother, his dad, probably said, take this ammo tin and fucking run it over to Jono over there. You know what I mean?
In the middle of a gunfight.
In the middle of a gunfight, you know?
Who you gonna fight for? Your family or some random dude?
Exactly, you know? So he's been told, whatever it may be, like, you know, you make up scenarios in your own mind to, like, paint a picture of, like, what you think's happening. But, like, I'm more than comfortable with the decision I made not to, you know, shoot someone. And you know, from a unit perspective too, like to Commando, like the amount of restraint that was shown through, you know, different battles of, like, you know, you hear stories of guys in room floor combat with insurgents, you know, shooting in and around women and kids, you know, the level of, like, precision and professionalism they showed to, you know, not shoot the women or not shoot the kids or not shoot through somebody to get to somebody else or not grenade a room because you hear women in there, you know, like, not do these things. So yeah, it's a bit of a side quest we went on, bit of a tangent.
It's all relevant, man. Yeah. You know, I think it's obviously, like, I wasn't there in those trips, right? Context, I vaguely understand because I was in Afghanistan as well, right? But, you know, like, even that kid running down the hill, like you said, you know, a whole platoon in battle, in the midst of battle, going, no, we're going to stop.
It was just like,
and you're well within your rights to engage that kid.
It would have, yeah. I mean, look, there was other occasions on that trip where, there was one occasion where someone was seen planting or arming an IED, and he was engaged by one of our guys, right, and killed. But the guy who was arming the IED that was in the ground was holding, whether it was his son or his brother, who was he was covered in, you know, the fucking dish dash that they wear. He was holding a child, and the child was killed because obviously the rounds passed through him and into the child. You know what I mean? You know, so, like, you know, shit like that happens, and that's horrendous. Like, and I know, like, for the guys on the ground on that particular sort of engagement, that really affected them. Like, really affected them.
Absolutely,
because that's like like, killing someone is fucking easy, mate. It's not hard to kill somebody. When you're a commando, or, you know, when you're SSR operator, when all you do is just, you're in the range, you're shooting, you're in the room floor combat range, you're doing runs with the team, with your patrol, with your, you know, and it's all about like seeking out, closing with, killing the enemy. When the day comes for you to do it, it's not hard. It's really not hard, right? What's hard is showing restraint. Is in a split second going combatant, non-combatant. That's so hard to do when the fight's on, you know. And, like, you know, in that moment with you know, with that particular occasion with that kid running down the feature, I'm like, I'm with my people. You know what I mean? Like, I can honestly say that the people that I'm surrounded by, I'm like, I'm proud to serve with these. And so nothing that I ever saw, and, you know, I like to think that I've got a pretty, like, strong moral compass. You know, nothing I ever saw or witnessed was, like, nothing but, like, 100% like professionalism. You know, whether it be, like, you know, there was a on my, I think it might have been my last rotation, where, you know, a family just in front of our, like, vehicle patrol ran over an IED, like a tractor full of kids, mate, and kids' bodies and shit strewn everywhere, pieces of people, father going around picking up his kids' body parts. You know what I mean? But then our guys are there to, like, you know, save who they could and provide what medical aid they could. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bit of a shame now that we live in a at a time where decisions made in a split second can be scrutinized with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of looking at a particular engagement or a particular, you know, I can't really speak on, like, the RS stuff or Schultzy stuff because that's like, I've got nothing to do with that. But I know for like guys from our unit that have been investigated, because I feel like, people were being investigated for like, and obviously no one's been arrested and no one's been charged and all that sort of stuff. So it sort of validates the position that nothing untoward occurred. But like you're fighting a war, mate. You know what I mean? You're fighting a war. Like you've as a government, you've sent us there. You've given us the tools. You've fucking tied our hands behind our back with daylight raids and soft knocks, and you've hamstrung us. You've said, here's a partner force you need to go out and do your job with. But we still want you to achieve these effects.
Yeah.
And then when you do achieve the effects, we're going to like go over it with a fine-tooth comb. And we're going to scrutinize every round and everybody and every this and every that, And we're going to accuse you of things, but not have the evidence to accuse you. We're not going to have like, we're not going to have witnesses. No, we're going to have this. We're not going to have that. But we're going to fuck your life up. We're going to make your life hell. We're going to raid your shit. We're going to raid your home. We're going to follow you around. We're going to accuse you of things. It's just like, mate, it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting how it's all sort of played out.
And when you look back, especially on a trip like that, where you've seen restraint, you've seen accidents happen, guys significantly affected by it, guys trying to do the right thing in the worst fucking circumstances. I mean, and then like you said, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was an absolute fucking shit show. All the accusations, crimes, all that sort of stuff. What does that do when you think about guys like Brett Wood, Todd Langley, Realm Robinson? Does that do something to your memory of those guys? Does that piss you off more?
Yeah, it does. I think it doesn't honor them because it sort of tarnishes their legacy in a way.
Yeah.
And I think as a like more should have been done from the powers that be, the hierarchy, to protect the guys. Like I'm a firm believer.
Sorry, in campaign or post campaign accusations?
Post campaign accusation.
Gotcha.
So we lost a lot of good guys in that, and we lost guys after that. Whether it be through suicide, through and even when you say you lost guys, you don't need to lose guys. Like death isn't. We've lost guys through addiction. That their lives are destroyed now. You know what I mean? Mental health, their lives are destroyed. You know what I mean? So we've lost those guys. They're not who they are anymore, as people, and I just see what they've done to like a generation of like war fighters and how badly it was. It's not even a case of how badly it was managed. Like I remember the first press conference that I saw when Angus Campbell was up there, and basically just and the then Prime Minister was there as well, and I'm just like, this is disgusting. Like you're getting up in front of national TV and you're basically saying that these guys are killers, and like Scott Morrison, I met Scott Morrison when he was the local member for like Cronulla or whatever it was. This is when the Liberal Party were in opposition, right? And I met him with some other guys from the unit at the time. And I met the shadow defense minister at the time as well. And we caught up at a cafe in Cronulla. We sat there and we talked for like 3 or 4 hours about military stuff, right? And Afghan was happening at the time, right? And Scott Morrison, from my discussion with him, was like really heavily about like looking after defense, looking after like veterans and all this sort of stuff. And then fast forward however many years later, he's there with Campbell basically saying that, SOSR, 2 Commando, SOTG, Special Operations Command are all a bunch of fucking murderers, and we're going to pull their medals off them, and they're a disgrace, and whatever sort of whatever names you want to throw out there, mate. I was disgusted, and I'm like, how can you've like the judicial process, the process, like to get to that point where you can get up in front of the country and say that these guys are killers. The system's fundamentally broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what's happened to get to that point where you've been comfortable enough to get up in front of the country and say these things that haven't been tested? There's no witnesses. There's no like the burden of proof hasn't been met to say that any of this is true. So I'm like, I remember when I saw that first press conference, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a bad few years.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bad few years. And I said, And I said to myself, I know exactly what's going to happen. The hierarchy are going to hang the dudes out to dry. And that's fucking exactly what they did, mate. Exactly what they did.
Yeah. Right. It's 1:15. How much time do you have?
Okay, we'll keep going.
Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell me if you've got a hard right.
No, that's fine.
Cool. So when I look at that stuff going on right now, right? And I'm not a conspiracy dude of, my algorithm wants me to be, but I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
When you look at this stuff going on and like the absolute fucking the fervor in which they are pursuing these dudes and the allegations, etc. What do you think? What's the end state? Is it because let's just say, I'm hypothetically, it's all true, 100%. They all get arrested. Everyone goes to jail. Now what?
Yeah, now what? Yeah.
So we just disband SOCOM.
They've got justice. Yeah.
And that's obviously not the case. Yeah. I'm just making it up.
Yeah.
Right. But what's the end? What do you think the end state is? Do you think
I think it's a case of, it's definitely they're saving face now. That's what they're doing. They know that like they've spent the best part of $300 million investigating these things, right?
I couldn't believe that, man.
You've got
give that money to me.
You've got officers, you've got officers, legal officers, all these people marking their own homework. They're justifying their own existence. Selfishly, they're justifying their own financial gain. Some of these people that are involved in these investigations are getting paid like disgustingly high salaries. So they are incentivized financially to keep this thing going as long as they possibly can, right? The government has thrown hundreds of millions of dollars at something that like up until this point has been fruitless. There's no one's in jail. We've got a couple of guys arrested that are going to obviously have their day in court, right? But they've just spent millions and millions of dollars and they've been telling everybody that all this stuff has occurred. And I think it's a case of something that started off with a few people, a few disgruntled people. A lot of allegations came out with guys and SASR and where who made those allegations. Like who the fuck knows? But it was enough to get the whole thing going, right? And then this thing, just like this, it's like a self-licking ice cream, mate. You know what I mean? It's just like a beast feeding on itself, and it got bigger, and it got bigger, and it got bigger, and it's just like all these things are happening. We need to find out more. We need to investigate more. We need to talk to more people. We need to raid more homes. We need to get more hard drives. We need to get more. And that obviously costs money, right? And then you get this thing, this enormous beast that's $300 million in. They had to arrest RS.
It's like a sunk cost.
They had to.
Yeah.
Now, like in my not so professional, I don't know anything about the legal system. I don't know anything about what do they have on him? They got nothing on him. They don't have a weapon. They don't have like forensic analysis. They don't have ballistics. They don't have this, that, and that. I mean, I saw something the other day come out online with one of the prosecutors over there saying, yeah, this is going to be a really hard thing because we don't have all these like key elements. And it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like, well, you're trying to convict somebody with these crimes. You've got to meet the burden of proof. And what's the burden of proof? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, there's all these doubts already. So I think it's like kabuki theater, mate. It's like they're going to drag this out for years. They're going to make the guy's life hell. They're going to fucking follow him around. They're like, yeah. So like, man, I think sometimes like with defense, sometimes with government is that like these things just take on a life of their own. I've definitely lost all faith in the leadership class. That at no point did someone with like, because look, once you get to a certain rank, you're like it's almost like a political position. You know what I mean?
It's like you're not quite in the military.
Nah,
you haven't really fluffed your nest enough.
No, exactly right.
Politics, yeah.
And like the Australian Army has more. What is it? Generals per capita, if you want to call it that, than any military in the world.
I think we even, and I'm plugging this
talking generals, brigadiers, like.
I think we even have more generals than the US Army.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I could be plugging that out of my bumhole, but
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So, at what point in this process did someone who, is a brigadier or whatever just say, hey, everybody, let's fucking slow the roll here. Hey, Campbell, how about you don't get up in front of the country and say that all these guys are murderers until we in fact have the evidence to say that? Like, you're going off a report. Like, so, whether it be the war crimes things that's going on, whether it be the investigations into, those guys that died in the Hilo crash off the Whitsundays, that's another whole rabbit hole you could go down to around like blame, obfuscation and passing the buck and no one taking accountability for it, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm definitely not getting invited to any fucking officers' barbecues, that's for sure.
It reminds me of police, right? It's when like there's like a chase and somebody dies and they're like, the police should have done this. And I'm kind of like, the police don't start car chases.
Yeah.
Criminals do.
Yeah.
They react to what you have done.
Yeah.
All right. It's kind of the same thing here, know? And there's a couple of things that I think about, right? First one is, like you said, the legal system. I'm not all over what that's about. But so two guys got arrested, Schultze and BRS, and then they get released, right? So, and I'm sure there's cops listening that could explain this better than me, but I'm like, why would you arrest a guy, hold them for a week, 2 weeks or whatever, and then let them go? Because if you're going to arrest them, surely you've got enough to be like, hey, well, this guy's done X, Y, Z, now it's time for prison.
Yeah.
Not, okay, we're going to arrest you. Damn it, we actually don't have enough.
Yeah.
You can go now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's way more to it than that, to my layman's thing. But I don't know.
There's definitely an element of theatrics involved in RS's arrest.
Dude, like the whole thing from inception, at least from my observation, is it's been a media thing.
Absolutely.
Before it was a legal thing.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like there was accusations and then a big legal team investigated and they found that it was going to happen. It went to the media. It went to that Nick McKenzie dude.
Yeah, they were right stories. That's all come out now. They had stories ready to go before he was arrested. And like, I know his team had said, hey, do you want us to come in? Like, we'll come in and we'll do the thing. Or like, whatever, no, so.
Well, even before that, like the very, very right at the very beginning, where the whole thing started, it started with the media.
Yeah.
It didn't start with, the police investigating him. That all came later. So, for me, I'm like, well, the foundation of this whole thing is media driven. So there's
for sure.
a whole lot of sensationalism.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of agenda. So just, like I said, I'm not a conspiracy guy. There's a whole lot of agenda that would go along with that.
And like, it's, you've got the, RS's defamation thing that he went against the media with that, proved to be a long sort of like drawn out process for him. And then you've got Hesto that had his thing and Hesto ultimately won his, but they're two very different situations. Your RS is like multiple events, multiple scenarios, multiple situations, dozens of people involved. Whereas, Hesto's one was like a particular incident that occurred and like, so.
That was horrendous.
Yeah. Horrendous. And, but like from a legal perspective, like, it's a little bit more sort of confined, I guess. The event that like Hesto was arguing that he ultimately won was a less complicated event than sort of like what RS went through with all the allegations that came out, the multiple stories, the multiple, allegations of killing this guy and kicking this guy and fucking doing whatever, So it definitely like the process with RS, it's definitely a very, very complicated, very unique, and like the legal system in Australia isn't set up to litigate defamation in the same way it is in the US. It's very, very hard to like because I've in business over the years I've been involved in like various sort of like legal battles and arguments and whatnot, so I have a bit of a appreciation for the legal system just from my personal experience. But defamation is one of those things that like, it's so much hard to litigate defamation in Australia than it is in the US, right? So, proving damage is a big thing in Australia. You got to prove like, okay, so someone said X, Y, Z, like what's the damage? What's the real damage? You got to prove the damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cost me my job, my house, X amount of money.
And also too, like, it's a different sort of like kettle of fish altogether. So, obviously RS had his whole thing and the whole process sort of played out, But then it was sort of like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? And again, I keep going back to this thing that the beast became too big. It became too big to ignore. It became they could never have got to a position where they've spent that much money and been like, okay, we're done now.
Yeah, it turns out
they're all good. Turns out they didn't do anything wrong. Turns out we were wrong. Turns out all these people made up some bullshit. So like, yeah, I feel like for RS in particular, it's just like, man, you're the poster child of that like investigation, of that witch hunt, and yeah, we are where we are because of it.
Yeah.
So.
And you've got to look at it as well. Like I look at it broadly, like you said, $300 million, all this time and money they've spent and the effort, and the outcome is ambiguous. It's like there is no one wins in this scenario, right? And then I'm shocked that people aren't looking on as regular Australians going like, man, the price of fuel is is out of control.
Yeah.
Cost of living, pack of chips cost me fucking $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not look at the government and be like, can you fucking stop? Can you put that money anywhere else?
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
Yeah.
There's NDIS fraud. There's all sorts of crazy shit going on with the government, and it fucks me off. And then look, I guess my question for you is, we're recording this on 24 April. Tomorrow's Anzac Day. Tomorrow, you're going to strap on your medals. Hopefully, you're going to wear your beret.
Yeah, I'm bringing it, mate.
Wear your bezel. I'm wearing mine.
Yeah.
First time ever. What are the implications for that for you? Because I've run through some scenarios in my head. What if someone's fucking yelling at me and my kids?
Yeah.
I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
But I'm wearing the hat.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think if you were to gauge the public opinion on sort of what's going on right now, I would say the vast majority of Australians are disgusted at how RS is being treated. The irony is that like RS didn't like commandos. This is a joke. This is funny. This is totally side. This is fucking another side quest. But RS didn't like commandos at all. Like fucking hated us. He fucking hated us. But we are his loudest supporters now. And so we should, because we're all on the same
100%.
team. We're all on the same team. Like we all, and the people that his loudest supporters now and his most vocal supporters are the ones that back in the day he was like, fucking commando cats.
Yeah.
He fucking hated us. But anyway, it was funny that's 2 Squadron he was in. They didn't like commandos at all. They fucking hated us. Anyway, and yeah. The irony is we're his biggest supporters now.
Well, he's I didn't think we'd go this far into the RS.
Yeah, I know. It's just
we're here, so
yeah.
He's down here somewhere.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. I'm not sure why he's at fucking Tweedy wherever he is, but yeah. So I mean, fuck, man, he might
cross paths, maybe
might pop up somewhere tomorrow, man.
Yeah.
I'd like to be honest, man. I'd like to think so, man, because like whether he likes commandos or not.
I think and we talked about this earlier, right?
You get out and you don't give a fucking.
Yeah, and it was a very different time, man. It was a very different time. We were both competitive. Like the units were very competitive. Like we were selfishly trying to take on more responsibility and take shit off them that they didn't want to let go, and vice versa, and not vice versa, but definitely we were trying to take shit off them. And there was a pressure from hierarchy for certain things to occur that they probably didn't want to occur. So there was a lot of animosity and whatnot. And again, we've talked about this. I like to think, and it probably has. It's definitely it's changed now. And I think I like to think that this the investigations and what both units have gone through have definitely brought us closer together. And that ultimately when this shit is all put to bed and RS is found not guilty and everyone can be like, okay, this is fucking done now. Let's move on with it. Then it's only going to be sort of smooth sailing from here. But yeah, sort of getting back to what you're saying about Anzac Day. I think ultimately the vast majority of Australians, and you know what, I might be in an echo chamber, mate. You know what I mean? But a lot of the online comments that I see are just overwhelming support and sort of disgust around how people are being treated. And people only see the RS stuff or the Schultzy stuff because that's what's there's dozens and dozens of people whose lives have been fucking ruined by this stuff. You know what I mean? Like through investigations, the witch hunt, the interviews, and like, you know, it's not just reserved for those two guys. But yeah, I like to think that the vast, overwhelming majority of people understand that it's a massive stitch up. But yeah, I'm not really concerned if there's going to be. I'm not really concerned about, you know, anyone sort of like trying to pull me up on the day. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
it would be unwise. Like, you know, who's going to walk into a group of dudes wearing fucking green beret?
Kind of silly. And like, yeah.
And I don't think, particularly Queensland, I think Queensland's a little bit old school in that sense. That they're probably, you know, that real classic old school Aussie. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like Hollywood at the moment, right? For the longest time, they're trying to push this sort of woke agenda, and I think they underestimated and they miscalculated people's appetite for their bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the money reflects in Hollywood and the views and whatnot and the reviews of their movies. But it's reflecting what people really think.
Yeah.
And it's not what they thought.
No.
And I think the same thing's happening now with this RS thing and with the IGADF and whatever it's called. IGADF?
Yeah.
I think they've underestimated and they've miscalculated who Australians are.
Yeah.
Who Australian soldiers are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit of a shit fight at the beginning there. Everyone was a bit like, "Oh fuck, what's going on?" You know, like who's my friend, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it seems to have sort of ended up where we're like, "Nah, get fucked."
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I was never sort of involved in any of that, like in the investigations personally, because like the platoons that I was in the rotations, you know, no allegations were made, or there was never like any sort of incidents, and you know. I like to think that, I like to think that I would have been like at the time have been of the position where if someone said, "Hey, we want to interview you for XYZ," I would have said, "No, fuck yourself, fuck off. I'm not talking. I'm not saying shit to you. You know, you're trying to fucking ruin my life, trying to stitch me up." Which is what they did for a lot of people. Like, the more podcasts that people are doing about like their experiences and what happened and like I think people like Australians have a pretty good sort of like bullshit filter. I think, you know what I mean. They have a pretty good nose for like what's fishy, and this is fishy, mate. This doesn't pass the sniff test. You know, whether it's like the investigation into the crash for the helos. I mean, you know, Jim Jeffries, the comedian.
Yeah.
So he does a whole big thing on a podcast that he did with his nephew. I think it was one of either the pilot or one of the crew on that crash. And he talks about how that whole thing has just been like. Again, I'm not a conspiracy nut, right? But I know what people who fucking cover their asses are, like what their behaviours is. And you know, what's the difference between truth and conspiracy? 6 months. You know what I mean? And like when you got a whole cohort of people that are just like desperately trying to fucking save themselves for the next job or the next position or the next like cushy posting or the next whatever, they will do whatever they need to do to fuck cover their ass. Yeah, so like Jim Jeffries does a really good podcast where he talks through that whole process about like how all these things were brought up and it was all swept under the rug, and when people ultimately died because of like negligence, and it's just like, oh, there's no blame to be seen here. You know what I mean? And again, like sometimes things just they get so big they take on a life of their own. So, I mean, look, it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't sort of like it doesn't affect how I feel about the time that I served in the unit. But I will say this, and I can honestly say this is probably the case for a lot of people. When my son's 5, right? My daughter's 8. She understands that I was in the army, right? But my son's got no like. And you know, if my son when he gets to like 18, 19, 20, if he says to me, "Hey, Dad, I want to be a commando just like you," not a chance, mate.
Really?
No.
Yeah. Far out, man.
No, especially if there's a war going on. If there's another conflict like this, not a fucking chance, mate. Yeah, not a chance. I'm just like like people like same thing happened in Vietnam when the guys come back and the guys came back and the investigations occurred. People just have they just like have weak moral like fiber. They just lack the intestinal fortitude to go like, no, I'm going to look after my guys. I'm not going to let you fucking get him in an office for 8 hours. I'll take you can fuck my career, but you're not ruining these guys' lives. That never happened, So like when my son gets to an age where he's able to sort of choose. Ultimately, I'm not going to like stop him, but I'll definitely because he'll be an adult by that stage. He'll be a grown man. He can do whatever he wants. But like I'll be definitely trying to dissuade him from it. I won't be encouraging it. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I've given vague thought. I mean, I've got 2 daughters, a bit different, but I've given vague thought to that too. Because you know what it's like. You're on social media with pictures of yourself, and people ask you questions about, I showed you in the army, or whatever. And my answer is always yes, but I'm like, here's the big caveat.
There's a caveat.
Yeah. I'm like,
there's a price to pay. Just be aware of the price.
Yeah. And I think about my career, and I'm like, I would 100% do it again.
For sure, I would too.
But I would go harder for shorter.
Yeah.
And then I'll get out.
Yeah.
Get out when I'm up.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did do that.
Hindsight's always good.
Yeah. But mate, that's probably a good place to wrap it up, man. I just want to ask you 3 quick questions, dude. So first one is, obviously we're talking about it now. So your service, man, what does your service mean to you, dude? Particularly in the light of all this stuff.
Yeah. It's, like I said earlier, it's definitely shaped the person I am, but it's allowed me to sort of like, it's allowed me to grow because like I was able to go through all that, experience all that. It's given me perspective, but it's allowed me to like, I was able to answer a lot of questions that I wouldn't have been able to answer had I not done it. Like, am I a pussy? Ultimately, when it comes to push comes to shove, do I have it or not? Some people have it. I like to think I have it. I'm by no means the best operator that ever lived. Like I did my job. I was pretty good at my job, but like, I'm not a pussy. So I can tick that box. Be like, okay, I was very fortunate to be like, every generation has their like, the war fighters, you know what I mean? There's the Vietnam generation and then there's the GWAT generation and there's the Afghan generation. Like I'm glad that I was able to be a part of that generation and experience those things. I think for guys in the future, war looks very different. War looks very scary for people that are like an infantryman's war now or into the immediate future is a very different it's a very different scenario with drones and with like it's a really scary place to be in now in terms of like I'm fortunate that like the war we fought there was no drones. Had there been drones, mate? Yeah, so like my service means a lot to me that I'm able to sort of go through that part of my life, tick the box, and but ultimately I'm happy with like I've been able to tick all the boxes I wanted to tick. There's nothing about my career that I wish I did that. No, I did everything. So, spent time in tactical assault group, went to Afghanistan, did this, did that, did these courses, had those experiences. Yes. But it's allowed me now to like put that all behind me and be like, okay, that's like if I meet someone new, I don't tell them I was in the army. I don't speak about it. Like it might come up in conversation, but like I've got plenty. Like we're on a team call with my business the other day, and so we've got a few Filipino employees, right? And I mentioned it on a call, and some of these people have been working for me for 2 years, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you're in the army. My brother's in the army. My brother was in the Filipino army, and my boyfriend was like he was in the US Army and blah blah. So, but it's not something that I sort of have like forward facing anymore. But it's definitely allowed me to sort of I feel like be successful, somewhat successful, and sort of shape the person I am now.
Oh, that's good, man. And then what about outside your service, man? Obviously, you kind of mentioned that there anyway. But who are you and what are you outside having served like that?
Well, now I'm a business owner, but like business owner, but ultimately I'm a father. Best job in the world.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to be a way better dad. It's like when you go through those experiences and you see how like life is like, it's that, you know, and it's definitely given me perspective on what really, really matters. There's so much about life that we think matters. It just doesn't. It's just fucking fluff. It's noise. Like what really matters is your family, your health, your faith. If that's, you know, if that's what, you know, your religion, your faith, whatever it is, if that's who you are, you know, you actually, you don't need a lot in life to be like truly happy, you know? And I think like my service is like give me, like my missus says to me all the time, she's like, you never get stressed. You never seem to be stressed. Like if something goes wrong, you never really seem stressed. And I'm like, because I'm not. Like if it all goes to zero tomorrow, like I know I can do it again. You know what I mean? Like if I lost everything right now, like if I've got you, my fiance, and I've got my kids, and they're happy, and you're happy, and you're safe, that's all that matters. Like, you know. So yeah, I'm a dad. I do dad stuff now. I just do business on the side because I like it. It's fun. Business is a game. I enjoy it. You know.
Yeah, dude. That's such a timely reminder for me, man, because I've got caught in that chase the dragon trap post service. I've got to do this to have value, you know, more. And at the moment, I'm doing this new thing. It's this workshops and speaking and stuff, and it's slow, and it's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And if things aren't working for me, I get a bit shitty, and sometimes I take it up there.
Yeah.
And if I have a great day, that I feel great up there.
Yeah.
But that's just such a good, like, you know, you say something and you know it, but you've got to just realize it.
And sometimes it takes for someone else to say it as well, to be like, yeah, of course. The penny drops.
That's why I'm doing the Cray Foundation.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I could tell you probably most of the things we're going to do on the course.
Yeah.
And I could tell you what I've done.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
But I need to be told again.
Yeah.
By someone else.
Yeah.
So like I needed that reminder.
Yeah.
Fucking relax, bro. You don't get a couple of speaking gigs. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
I look around. Gym, I could fucking sit over there like a fucking nerd, paint my models, play the drums.
Life's good.
I got everything that I need.
And because I did the same when I got out. Like me and the missus who started a business, we grew it very quickly. We had like legal issues with like former business partners. We did the whole court thing. We sold the business to private equity. It was go, fucking travel. It was just like constant stress, constant like, I don't want to do this thing anymore, but I want to do that, but I don't want to do that anymore. And I want to do this. And then, I finally found myself now, like if you'd said to me like 3 years ago that I'd own a software company, I'd be like, oh, you're fucking joke. Like, I don't know anything about software. I know nothing about software, like at all. And here I am now, like, Maddie, a business partner who's a former B company sniper. We're in a really fast growing like software company that's like it's exceeding our expectations of how quick it's growing. But I think it like I had to get everything else right for that to like to work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like my head needed to be right, my family life needed to be right. Like I needed to sort of like I needed to create the life I wanted, and like so this is the life that I want to live. And my business is like it needs to complement that. You can't take away, because I'm not gonna be that dad who who's at the office 6.5 days of the week and I never get to see my kids. Like I'm in a very fortunate position now where I work from home. Our entire business is like remote. We've got 40 staff that work between Philippines, the US, here in Brisbane, like all over the place. The entire business is remote. I get to take my kids to school every day. I see my kids like doing jiu-jitsu and judo and like, you know what I mean? Like that like if it doesn't matter how successful my business, that just allows me to do this stuff, but that's what really matters. Like coming home, seeing your kid. They don't care how successful you are. They don't give a fuck, mate. They just want you to be there. And if you're there for them and you're present, like that's all they need. And, you know, I think like when you're a father and you have kids, it's your duty. That's your job. You've brought to like, you've brought living like people into the world. It's your job to make sure that they have everything that they need to succeed and to flourish and to become like good people, you know? And you can't be that person if you're just stressed, fucking chasing whatever it may be. You know, you yourself that like you set yourself a goal. To get to that goal, I need to sacrifice everything. I need to sacrifice family. I need to sacrifice time with my kids and my relationship with my missus and whatever. And then you get there and it's just like, oh, I'm here now. Fuck, it's not all it's like, you know, it's not all it's turned out to be, you know, it's just more stress. I'm more successful, but like the missus hates me. Kids don't want to be around me because I'm cranky all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am grateful that like I went through my real hardcore business stress before kids.
Yeah.
But like you said, you've got to go through a few things.
You have to.
And now I've got a business that's now going to start giving me a passive income.
Yeah, and you're never going to kick goals in your first fucking hit out. It's just not going to happen, mate. Whatever you think in your mind that you start with, you think this is. I mean, hey, it happens. Sometimes you just like you hit something that's fire and it just takes off, right? But like more often than not, it's like the fourth, the fifth, the sixth go around that it lands. You know what I mean? And all those lessons you learned in the past, like business lessons, the work-life balance lessons, like, yeah, you know, I think we suffer a lot with like hustle culture these days. You know what I mean? Like the toxic hustle culture, you know?
Yeah.
And you look at the Instagram feeds and the Ferraris and the Lambos and the houses and all that sort of stuff. And that's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that like have those things that have great lives that are very happy, right? But like, you know, one of the things that like, you know, I was very fortunate when I started the fitness business with Emily. We did a lot of traveling, and she was with a talent agency called WME, William Morris Endeavour. And, you know, through that, through publicists, we met like a lot of like people in the entertainment industry, like Hollywood, you know, actors and producers and stuff like that. A lot of sort of, you know, a few like sort of like household names, so to speak. And sort of my experience with them is that like they're wildly successful, but they're fucking miserable. Wildly successful individuals, but stressed out of their mind, miserable. Relationships are in like shambles. You know what I mean? Generally not happy people. But on the surface, they look like they're crushing it. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of people that I know as well that like in my own personal life that from their Instagram like personas, you'd think that they just got everything. They're loving life, you know? And while they have all the things, their lives are a mess. They're depressed behind the scenes. They're, you know, they've nothing makes them happy anymore because everything they want, they've got. Their relationship to their family, with their relationship to their partners. So they're terrible. You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a balancing act. It's a bit of a juggling act, you know. But I like to think that like I've found that place where I'm happy with what I've got, and anything extra is just a bonus. But I'm never gonna compromise like the my core sort of foundation about who I am and like where my worth is, and I need to be there for my family. And if all this other shit takes me away from that, like, not interested, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's been the what's the word I'm after? That's been the deciding thing that's made me stop businesses, change businesses, pursue something new.
Yeah.
Like I'm, you know, we have a high tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
Physical, emotional, mental, whatever.
Yeah.
So sometimes for guys like us, until we learn the lesson properly, you'll push through a lot of pain until it gets really bad, and then you'll change something.
Yeah.
I think the trick almost is learning not to push through so much pain. Just like understand what the pain means and be like, fuck, okay, that's all right. Maybe that's just a sign to just change things a little bit. Don't just like push the fucking needle till you burn it and then stop.
Yeah, because it's a real thing, man. It can really, like my business partner, Maddie, you know, wildly successful dude, like stupid successful, you know, $10.5 million home in Double Bay, you know, was running a $40 million a year US company, sales training organization. stressed out of his fucking mind. Stressed out of his mind, you know what I mean? And like when we started this business a couple of years ago, and like, you know, one of the things I said to him was, I'm like, you know, de-stress, man. Like, de-stress your life, and he did, and he went about like, you know, he's found Jesus again. Like, you know, faith is a real big part of his life, and kids, you know, his kids mean the world to him, like as you know, our kids mean the world to us. You know, so he made like, so he went from someone who's like just stressed out of his fucking mind, legal issues and like, you know, whole range of things, to now just like being able to, you know, just cut away the noise, cut away the bullshit, and sort of and create businesses around like what makes you happy, but also allows you not to compromise on your non-negotiables. You know, and it can be done. Like it really can be done. Like, you know, you look at the internet, you look at like anyone can start a business doing anything. You know what I mean? Whether it be e-commerce, whether it be like a school group, whether it be, you know, there's plenty of guys that leave the unit from any soft unit for that matter that have like expertise, that have knowledge on whatever it may be, that, you know, people want to learn these things. You just, you don't need to, like, I'm a firm believer, like, of this toxic hustle culture of like, it's not a thing, mate. It's not sustainable. It's not a thing. You can be very successful by being smart, you know, by picking like, okay, if I go about it this way, like, because what are you actually doing? Like, you know, how many days have you found yourself like feeling bad because like I'm not working, but like there's nothing I need to do. But I find myself like, I've got to be online just because I want to, I feel like if I'm not working, I'm cheating myself. You know what I mean? That's another thing that like takes a bit of time to sort of, you know, it takes, you've got to sort of train yourself out of it. Like it's about working smarter, not necessarily harder. And when you do, like, it's like in the unit, right? Like if you're going to do a mission, you're very precise about what it is you do. You're not going to get like distracted by the noise. You're not going to get distracted over here doing whatever. You're going to focus on the task, and you're going to do whatever it is to like achieve that task. You know, if you're going to start a business, whatever it may be, you don't need to be doing fucking 12-hour days, 7 days a week to achieve that. You know, with AI, hiring offshorers or whatever it may be, like you really can sort of get your time back and be way more productive with your time, and still, you know, work-life balance. It is a thing. You can achieve it.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, well, like for me, I say it's not balance, it's presence.
Yeah, for sure.
Excuse me. So if I'm down here, I'm working, and obviously I fuck it up all the time. But I'm here, I'm working. From there, I'm at home.
Yep,
and that's it. You got to like cut the
clear cut lines. Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, last question. And you can go keep living your life, mate, because you're blowing out your timings a bit.
That's all right.
Dude, advice for yourself, man, or anyone like you, younger, going into that kind of job?
I sort of liked what you said before about go hard, short, and then get out. Because I started, like, I look at my business life now, like I'm 47, right? And I didn't start business until I was like 35. And I've got some friends of mine that have, you know, started business in their like late teens, early 20s, that have gone on to build like huge and exit like really big companies, you know, and do really, really well in business. And I look at those guys and I'm like, shit, the things I could have done before if I hadn't had kids. The first business that Emily and I started was in 2014, 15. And then, you know, we had kids like, you know, 3 years later, you know what I mean? So like, mate, having kids changes like business big time. So if you've got the ability to do business unencumbered, and when I say unencumbered, like, you know, you can focus on it, you don't have kids to worry about or whatever, I definitely suggest that. So like anyone, like say for example, you know, I said before that I wouldn't encourage my my son to go into the army. That's just my perspective. That's my opinion. That's not to say you can't have a fantastic life in the army, you know, and a great sort of, you know, you get a lot out of it, which you can, right? Experiences may vary. What I would say is, like you said, like when you get in, you're going to learn very quickly whether this is for you or not. You know, you're going to learn whether like I'm a lifer or I'm not. And my advice would be work that out in the first 2 years. And then if you're a lifer and you want to be a senior NCO, one officer, or whatever, stick around and do it. But like, if you don't, do your 4 years, get the fuck out. And but before you get out, upskill yourself, because one of the things that weren't around when I was getting out was like online education, for example.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't a thing. Like, guys were doing university degrees by correspondence, but the online education space wasn't really like what it is now. Like, your like information is at your fingertips. You can upskill yourself and train yourself on pretty much everything and anything that you want. So my advice would be, identify pretty early whether you want to stick around or not. And if you don't, make the plans well before you get out about what it is you want to do. You don't want to get out with no plan. Getting into the army requires a bit of like planning and motivation. And like, you know, say for example, you know, I use like commandos as an example. And this is the advice I give to a lot of people that are getting out, right? Is that in order to get selected to be a commando, you've got to know exactly what it is you want. You got to be very focused, and you got to be very sort of like purposeful, purpose-driven, and have a plan, right? This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do on selection. This is my preparation, and then you execute on that, right? You need to carry that same mentality when you get out. You can't get out without a plan, because the amount of people that get out without a plan and then fucking life flounders for them, like, you know, there is going to be a period of time where you're going to go through like loss, like grieving, like depression. You don't have that banter anymore. It's like being part of a footy team 24/7. You're not going into the lines every morning talking shit. That's gone like that. And the guys that you were super, super close with, that you would see every single day, they just like slowly fade away because the unit can't keep up. Unit's super busy. The guys are super busy. You know, I still keep in contact with a few guys, but nowhere near the amount of people that I would like speak to on a daily basis when I was in, you know? So yeah, like have a plan when you want to get out. And that doesn't mean that's your plan forever. Just have a plan for what is when you get out. Cause like for me, my journey is morphed fucking 4 or 5 times. It's like between when I got out to where I am now. You know, I've tried a bit of this, tried a bit of that, didn't like that, I like this, did a bit of that, you know what I mean? Learned some experiences, learned some lessons, made some mistakes. Yeah, have a plan. Always have a plan. Never not have a plan. It doesn't have to be a good plan. It can be a shit plan, but a plan is better than no plan.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, because I went through that. Right, I had a plan. It didn't work out.
That's fine.
I had to make a new one straight away.
Doesn't matter.
And that one's worked out.
Yeah, and I find too that like sometimes failure, well, not sometimes, all the time, failure forces your hand. There's nothing wrong with. Don't ever not get out of the army because you're afraid that whatever it is you're going to do is going to fail, because it probably fucking will. But like that failure will give you lessons and experience that will then flow on to the next thing. You know what I mean? And failure, I actually like, I like having my back up against the wall, because it makes me like, okay, what do I got to do now? Like I've got to get out of this situation, and it makes you work, and it makes you like become creative and sort of then work out, okay, what do I need to do now?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. What's that saying? Innovation is born out of necessity.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Declan, mate.
Good one. That was a good chat, hey?
Thanks for the chat, bro.
Yeah,
that was good, man. Fuck, how long did we go for, dude? 2 hours, 30 minutes.
Yeah, nice one.
That's not bad. Yeah, sweet. Blew out your timings atrociously, but...
it's all good. It's a good chat.
Yeah, mate, thanks very much, dude. I'll hit the button on this, and for those of you watching, listening at home, catch you next time.
Awesome.
There you go. Thanks for listening to that episode. We've got more episodes on the way. In the meantime, check out warriorsandwardens.com for keynote speaking or workshops for operational readiness and longevity in military or first responder teams using emotional well-being and sharing lived experience. I'm your host, Tom Brown. See you next time.